Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Douluo. I Level Up Alone. Chapter 81. Cheng Xiao suddenly thought of the two divine kings in the sky, destruction and life. Doesn't it correspond to the power of destruction and the power of life? And doesn't the power of the king of destruction fit perfectly with the god of destruction? And doesn't the healing power of Juxin Begonia coincide with the true meaning of life? Thinking of this, Cheng Xiao's eyes lit up, but soon dimmed again. Destruction and life are the god kings. After his death 20,000 years later, Devil Island was formed to inherit the power of destruction and life. Now this island has not been formed, let alone the inheritance of the divine throne. What's more, the god of destruction wants to expand the divine realm, so how can he pass on the divine throne at this time? Wanting to inherit their two divine positions is simply whimsical and unrealistic. Instead of thinking about the feudal inheritance of the two god kings, it would be more practical to set the goal on the throne of Poseidon. After all, the heart of Poseidon is visible and tangible. Grandpa Dugu, I want to use that favor now. Putting the unrealistic thoughts out of his mind, Cheng Xiao raised his head and looked at Dugu Bo and asked. At this time, Dugu Bo was staring at Cheng Xiao in trance, as if he was seeing some unique treasure. The top martial spirit of the dragon clan is even better than the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. Although it has many flaws, it is not completely hopeless. Looking at this, he can grow as long as that girl Ling Ling keeps assisting him. Especially since this boy is only 11 years old, he has already created his own soul skills, and his control over soul power is far beyond that of ordinary people. Such a talent. Dugu Bo even heard the sound of his own heartbeat, but when he thought of the harsh words he had said before, Dugu Bo wanted to slap himself twice. It's better now, but it's hard to get off the tiger. Just when Dugu Bo was hesitating about how to save face and get this kid to become his disciple, he suddenly heard Cheng Xiao's words and was stunned for a moment without reacting. What did you say? I said, I want to use up the favor you owed me. I hope to be able to practice in the eyes of ice and fire all the time. After I took those two fairy grasses, the eyes of ice and fire became the best for me. A mimetic environment. Cheng Xiao was a little embarrassed. After all, talking about favors directly was actually a sign of being unkind. But looking at the look in Dugu Bo's eyes, he knew that if he directly proposed to practice the ice and fire eyes, he would definitely get stuck. It would be better to directly offer to exchange favors. Although Juxin Haitang assisted in extending the time, he still had to strengthen himself. Since the two dragon souls had this effect, he had to try as soon as possible to see if they could awaken the dragon souls and let him go further. Dugu Bo's face, which was originally filled with surprise, suddenly froze, and he obviously did not expect this. He was still thinking about how to exchange favor for apprenticeship when this kid suddenly said something, asking him to honor the favor. All his plans came to nothing. This feeling was like a cooked duck reaching your mouth, only for it to fly away. It's terrible. Your Majesty, what's wrong with you? Do you want to break your promise? Cheng Xiao pretended to be surprised and changed his title from Grandpa Dugu to Your Majesty, implying that the other person, a dignified and titled Douluo, would not gain weight by breaking his promise, right? Dugu Bo was an experienced man, and he could naturally hear the implication of Cheng Xiao's words. He couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, and then gritted his teeth and said, How? What? You can. Since you want to use that favor, I naturally have no reason to refuse. Quote. Seeing this, Yi Renxin suppressed laughter. How could he not see that his old friend was frustrated? He knew Dugu Bo's arrogant temper all too well. Being choked by Cheng Xiao's words now, I'm afraid I'm going to be very upset. Okay, you've passed. Remember, don't hide anything from us in the future, otherwise we won't know how to protect you. Yi Renxin waved his hand and said with a smile. Cheng Xiao nodded. Go ahead. After Cheng Xiao left, Dugu Bo still had a sullen face. Yi Renxin tilted his head and looked up at his old friend's face carefully for a long time. What are you looking at? Dugu Bo frowned. It depends on your mood. Yi Renxin said with a smile. What can we do? Naturally, it's great, Dugu Bo said calmly, with an indifferent look on his face. Oh, that's good. Yi Renxin nodded, stood up and stretched, then I'll be relieved. Let's go. Not for a while. Dugu Bo raised his eyebrows. Hey, it's right next door. It's the same for you and me. Yi Renxin shook his head and said, I still have to go back and study the acupuncture point map that guy gave me. There is some mystery in it. Douluo Bo nodded. Okay, then I won't keep you. Gone. When Yi Renxin left, Douluo Bo's tense expression finally broke through. With a sad expression on his face, he beat his hands and shouted regret, this business is a huge loss. If I had known that I would not have given that boy any choice and just accepted him as my disciple, why would he have done so many things? I was also confused for a moment, but I didn't expect that this guy was a little liar, and he didn't know how many secrets he hid. I accidentally looked away. You're taking advantage of that old guy, Lao Yi. Douluo Bo was so angry that his heart ached. A good disciple was about to talk, but he ran over and fell into Lao Yi's hands. What a loss. It took a long time for Douluo Bo to calm down, but he still had a look of regret on his face. Suddenly, with a roll of his eyes, Douluo Bo thought to himself, if you don't want to be a disciple, it would be nice to be a grandson-in-law. If the child Yan Yan gives birth to can inherit the Dragon Emperor's martial spirit. The more I think about it, the more likely it is. After all, the quality of the Dragon Emperor's martial spirit is far superior to that of the Jade Phosphorus Snake. There is a high probability that the children born will inherit this martial spirit. Douluo Bo's emerald eyes shone slightly, and he secretly thought that when his granddaughter came back, he would tell her to keep them close, but he couldn't let that guy Lao Yi's granddaughter get there first. Wahan City, Pope's Palace. A stunningly beautiful woman was sitting in the seat that belonged exclusively to the Pope. Her fair skin and almost perfect appearance were enough to dazzle countless men. Noble, elegant, tranquil, all kinds of beautiful words can be used to describe this woman. The golden dress is dotted with countless three-color gems, and the 9-curved purple gold crown on her head highlights her status and identity. The youngest pope of Wahan Palace, Bib Dong. At this time, Bib Dong, Zhengyu slightly held her smooth forehead with her hands, closed her eyes and took a nap. Suddenly, Bib Dong opened her eyes and stared forward. I saw countless golden lights in front of me condensed into an illusory figure. The moment she saw him appear, Bib Dong stood up, with a cold look on her beautiful face, and asked, what are you doing here? I'm here to tell you that Xiaoshui sent back a message asking you to transfer the man named Solace from the Spirit Hall in Tiando City. Jin Guangxiang said. Bib Dong narrowed her eyes and said, it's not her turn to control how our Pope's palace does things. Or is it that she can't help but replace me as Pope? Or is it that she can't help but replace me as the Pope? Obviously, Bib Dong's words were telling the other party that he either had the strength to replace her as the Pope, or he should stop meddling in other people's affairs. She still had the final say in Wahan Palace, and it was not Chien Runway's turn to dictate. In response to Bib Dong's words that hinted at tact, Guangying was slightly silent. After a while, Guangying sighed softly and said, after all, what happened back then is over. Why do you mother and daughter have to get into such a tit-for-tat situation? When Bib Dong heard this, a trace of resentment appeared on her charming face. I am that person's disciple. His daughter should call me senior sister, or sister. His words were full of hatred. If it hadn't been for that scumbag, how could Chien Runway have been born? If he hadn't done that kind of thing in the secret room, how could she bear the pain and leave Xiaoging? Even if you kill him or devour him, you won't be able to understand your hatred. She wished she could cut him into pieces. Tortured every day. Mother and daughter. Oh, this title would only remind her of her hellish life day and night. Alas, Guangying sighed, and stopped trying to persuade him. He only left one sentence. Then Solace is running rampant in Tiando City, hindering Xiaoshui's plan, and has angered Xiaoshui. Don't you adjust him. Go, if he dies suddenly in the future, don't blame me for not warning you. After that, the light and shadow turned into countless rays, scattered in the space, and finally disappeared. After the light and shadow completely dissipated, the resentment on Bib Dong's cheeks gradually faded away, replaced by an extremely complicated expression. Her feelings for Chien Runway are extremely complicated. When Chien Runway was just born, she wanted to kill this child who had the blood of that scumbag. If Chien Daoliu hadn't noticed it from the beginning and took him away, maybe she would have strangled him to death in his infancy one day. But as Chien Runway grew up, her resentment towards Chien Runway disappeared little by little, especially after devouring that scumbag. She also understood that the grudges of the previous generation should not be inflicted on a child. She had wanted to fulfill her responsibilities as a mother, but every time she saw Chien Runway, she couldn't help but think about it. If only that didn't happen that day, if only this child was what she and Xiaogang should have. How nice, if. There are not so many what ifs. Chien Runway's existence reminds her all the time, making it difficult to dissolve the hatred in her heart. She felt sorry for the child and hated her own filth. After wandering in such complicated emotions for countless days and nights, she finally couldn't bear it anymore and sent Chien Runway to the Tiando Empire to replace Shui Qinghe, out of sight and out of sight. Thinking of that young figure that was already blurred in her memory, a little unbearable flashed through Bib Dong's watery eyes. Somebody come. As Bib Dong's voice sounded, a subordinate came outside. Transfer Harris to the Tiando Empire Spirit Hall as the Platinum Bishop. Harris will nominate the acting bishop of the Douluo Empire Spirit Hall. In addition, Solace is asked to return to the Spirit Hall immediately to report on his duties and is not allowed to stay. The subordinate stroked his chest and saluted. Yes. Solace was transferred away. While he was still waiting for elders to be sent from Wahan City to come to the rescue, his most hated rival, Harris, came to his office with a report letter and placed the report letter in his office. On his desk. To be more precise, it should be Harris's desk. The moment the report letter was handed over to Solace, Harris became the new owner of the office. There is no accurate news about Solace's reaction. Later, many versions were derived from this. Some said that Solace was driven away like a lost dog. Some said that Solace did not believe it and went crazy and was taken back to Wahan City. Some said that Solace was offended. An 11-year-old child, that child was of great prominence and alarmed His Majesty the Pope. As outrageous as it is. Finally, it was passed around that a certain child turned out to be the hidden holy son of Wahan Palace, who came out to practice as an ordinary person. After some nobles heard the news, they didn't even dare to say anything and asked their children to withdraw from Yuexuan overnight. When he learned the news from Princess Shuike, Cheng Xiao was stunned. I'm not. Cheng Xiao shook his head like a rattle, his eyes firm. Really? Shuike looked suspicious, but when he thought of the prince's brother's unusual attitude towards him, he immediately shook his head. I don't believe it. Cheng Xiao stopped the manuscript he was writing and said earnestly, I'm serious. I really am not. Why don't you believe it? He won't take the blame. Speaking of which, Chien Runway moved really fast, and she was probably very angry with that Solace guy. It's a pity that they couldn't start a fight at that time, otherwise he would have really wanted to see the scene of the internal strife in Wahan Hall, which must have been quite interesting. I don't believe it. Shui Ke rolled his eyes. If you were really an ordinary businessman, how could Poison Douluo and Sheng Xiao Renxin take care of you like that? Cheng Xiao couldn't laugh or cry when he heard this. Besides, every time Brother Prince comes to Yuexuan, the time he spends chatting with you is longer than the time he spends with me. If it weren't for your extraordinary status, I can't think of any reason why Brother Prince would value you so much. Shui Ke he tilted his head and suddenly became alert. He opened his eyes wide and looked at Cheng Xiao. Brother Prince is already in his 20s, and he still doesn't plan to marry the crown princess. How can you? What are you thinking about? At such a young age, I usually read less messy books. Cheng Xiao put away the manuscript papers and books angrily, got up and left Yuexuan Library. Hey, what are you going to do? Go to Wahan Hall to borrow books. Now that the old guy Solace was driven back to Wahan City and spread such outrageous rumors, he had nothing to worry about. When Cheng Xiao came to Wahan Hall, many Wahan Hall soul masters recognized him. After all, there were many soul masters who witnessed Solace fleeing in embarrassment that day. Under the pointing of the soul masters, Cheng Xiao came to a female soul master as if no one else was there and asked, "Excuse me, do you have a man named Ji Yumo here? I have something to do with him." I'll report it for you right now. The female soul master was a little stunned and said cowardly after hearing this. The rumors were getting more and more sinister, describing Cheng Xiao as the holy son trained by Wahan Highness. How could she not be afraid? With that said, the female soul master ran away. Looking at her embarrassed back, Cheng Xiao's mouth twitched. Wouldn't even the people from Wahan Palace believe it? Not long after, a handsome-looking man walked out. It was Ji Yumo. Ji Yumo's expression was cold and not very flattering. He was an eyewitness when Solace returned to Wuhan City. Naturally, he couldn't believe the rumors about the Holy Sun. What's the matter with you? Ji Yumo had a business-like attitude. The investigation was stopped, and he still had some opinions about it. After all, he was also very suspicious of Cheng Xiao. The lack of any results made him unable to accept it calmly. That's right, I would like to borrow some information from Wahan Palace. Ji Yumo frowned and shook his head to refuse. The books in Wahan Palace will only be accessed by the internal staff of Wahan Palace and will not be loaned out. Please take them back. Cheng Xiao took out the token Chien Runway gave him. When the token appeared in front of him, Ji Yumo's indifferent expression changed instantly. His eyes suddenly stopped on the token, and his expression immediately became serious. He gestured to take it with both hands and asked, "Can I take a closer look?" "See." "Well, okay." Cheng Xiao threw it over casually. Ji Yumo caught the token in panic and almost cursed, "How could you throw such an important thing away?" Although he is still not sure, Ji Yumo is already 80% sure that this thing is definitely real. Just needs some final confirmation. Therefore, it is natural not to treat this rare token casually. Ji Yumo carefully pointed the token at the light source, tilted it slightly, and carefully looked at the patterns on it: 6 wings, coiling dragon stick, golden crocodile. That's right, that's it. He had seen this token in his grandfather's hand. You can't go wrong. But he had only seen the token in his grandfather's hand before, and his grandfather wouldn't even touch it. He only told him to remember what the token looked like. How could he have this token? Could it be that rumor is true? No way. Ji Yumo's pupils shrank, and the corners of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. After carefully returning the token, he asked in a slightly dry voice, "Can you tell me the origin of this token?" Cheng Xiao put the token back, followed Chien Runway's instructions, shook his head and said, "Don't ask if you shouldn't. You just need to take me to check the information." Ji Yumo's forehead felt wet for a moment, his heartbeat seemed to have missed half a beat, and he almost wanted to slap himself. Is that what I am qualified to ask? What a mouthful. I have been used to having smooth sailing in the past few years, and I am actually a little carried away, forgetting all about what my grandfather told me. Was he just randomly asking about this kind of thing? Since the other party came to Tiando City in this capacity, he must have an important mission. How could he just ask around? I was reckless. Come this way, I will take you there. If you need anything in the future, you can tell me. After saying that, Ji Yumo raised his hand, showing respect, but not humbly. Cheng Xiao introduced the interior of the main hall. The soul masters watching around were still whispering and pointing at Cheng Xiao's back. Look, it's definitely a lie. If it were true, how could Bishop Gumo be so cold? Then who can say for sure? Maybe Bishop Gumo doesn't know the inside story either. I don't think this is true. How can the Holy Sun not be protected by a strong person when he comes out to practice? Does Douluo Bo not count? He is not the elder of our spirit hall. However, the next moment, their whispers stopped abruptly, and they stared at the two figures walking inside, their jaws slowly drooping, as if they had seen a ghost. Everyone looked in disbelief. No way. Why is Bishop Gumo so respectful? Could it be that the rumored news is not a rumor? Everyone was shocked and quickly packed up the things in their hands. Their pace suddenly accelerated, and the figures were wrong. Soon, the news that the Holy Son of Wahan Palace came to Tiando City for training spread to every corner of Tiando City, noses and eyes. Cheng Xiao had no idea what was happening behind him. If he knew, he would definitely roar at these people. I didn't. Stop talking nonsense. The rumors became more and more intense. When Cheng Xiao heard about it later, his throat became hoarse due to the explanation. However, no one believed him. Instead, they gave him a look that said, "Brother, I understand." Cheng Xiao couldn't explain it well, and he couldn't do it without explaining it. Seeing that no matter how hard he tried, it had no effect, Cheng Xiao sighed angrily and said, okay, I can do it, whatever you say." "You are indeed." Everyone rushed to tell each other. Cheng Xiao stared, dumbfounded, and almost lost his breath. Now no one believes him when he tells the truth, right? He obviously intends to change his past and stop lying and making up stories, but why is the reality so cruel that even good people are not allowed to do it? Inexplicably, with the label, Saint Son of Wahan Palace, on his back, Cheng Xiao felt uncomfortable wherever he went out. He felt like eyes were always on him. It also made him feel guilty as a thief, fearing that one day someone from Wuhan City would expose him. It would be fun if he met Juliana one day, and the false saint met the true saint. 2 months later, Cheng Xiao knocked on Yi Renxin's door and pushed in without waiting for Yi Renxin's consent. "Grandpa Yi, take a look. I've finished it." With that, Cheng Xiao handed the manuscript to Yi Renxin. "Let me take a look." Yi Renxin took Cheng Xiao's manuscript. After a long time, he slowly put it down and praised, "It's well written. It's enough to put many theoretical masters to shame." Cheng Xiao said modestly. Grandpa Yi was joking, so he doesn't deserve such high praise. "I am satisfied if it is accepted by the public." Yi Renxin smiled and did not argue with him, but his eyes fell on the writer. Authors, Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao, Ren Shui. Thanks to Wahan Palace and Tiando Royal Academy for providing detailed argumentation materials. Cheng Xiao explained. Ren Shui provided a lot of help after all. Moreover, without the information from Wahan Palace and Tiando Royal Academy, this theory would not have been perfected so quickly. Yi Renxin shook his head. "If you put me here, I'm afraid." "Grandpa Yi, if your name is not on it, who would care about what a child writes?" Cheng Xiao begged pitifully. "Grandpa Yi, please help me." Yi Renxin looked a little helpless. After pondering for a long time, he reluctantly nodded. "Looking at your 100-hole map and the Ghost Gate needle, I will help you." "Thank you, Grandpa Yi." Cheng Xiao thanked him quickly. Seeing Yi Renxin mention it, he asked with concern, "Grandpa Yi, do you have any results in your research?" Ever since Cheng Xiao wrote down the acupoint map and Gimen needle and handed it to Yi Renxin has been studying them. Regardless of the mysterious nature of this Ghost Gate needle, it is actually just a dying acupuncture technique. If it can last for just a moment and a half, it is considered to be powerful, and it does not have any heavenly power. But Yi Renxin seemed to be able to understand something else from this. Sometimes even Cheng Xiao couldn't answer some questions, and Cheng Xiao couldn't help but admire him. Soon, the results must be verified in the next 2 days. Yi Renxin smiled at the corner of his mouth. He is already extremely familiar with the 100 points map. In addition, the Ghost Gate acupuncture technique, if he can use Juxin Haitang's soul power to condense the needles, and supplement it with what he has learned these days, there is a lot of confidence that he can live longer. Some time ago. Congratulations to Grandpa Yi in advance. The next day, the manuscript was divided into 3. One was submitted to Tiando City, one was sent to Wuhan City, and the other was sent to the Star Luo Empire. Nodding City, Junior Soul Master Academy. Yu Xiaogang stood by the window and looked at the sweating young man on the playground downstairs, with a happy smile on his face. That figure was none other than his only disciple, Tang San. A few years ago, after seeing the child named Cheng Xiao absorb spirit rings beyond his limits, he increased Tang San's training in order to provide support for his theory as soon as possible. Only if Tang San breaks through level 30 as soon as possible and absorbs spirit rings beyond the limit at level 30 can he provide more powerful evidence for his theory. And Tang San, this kid, was also very obedient. Under constant pressure, Tang San made rapid progress, and now he has broken through to level 29. According to his estimation, this child will definitely be able to break through level 30 before graduation. Thinking of Cheng Xiao, who had inspired his new theory, Yu Xiaogang suddenly realized that he had not seen him for more than half a year. Maybe I hit a bottleneck and felt that I was hopeless as a soul master, so I graduated early. Yu Xiaogang sneered and shook his head. I told you a long time ago that if you squeeze your potential like this, without any supplements, you can't even think of a breakthrough. Level 20. His talent is so poor that he cannot explain my theory at all. Yu Xiaogang felt regretful. If his innate soul power were higher, accepting him as a disciple might make his theory more convincing. Only Xiao San is the most perfect disciple, and only he can do it. Yu Xiaogang was very satisfied with Tang San. Not only did this child have twin martial souls, he was also born with full soul power. Especially one of the martial souls was the blue-silver grass, which could be called a useless martial soul. This gives him a very large operating space, and the tolerance of blue-silver grass can perfectly interpret his theory of martial arts. If this child can use blue-silver grass to become a titled Douluo under his own training, he will slap everyone hard and tell them that there are no useless martial spirits, only useless soul masters. He once became the laughingstock of the entire soul master world, but his disciples will bring supreme glory and push his name to the altar of the entire theoretical world. His gaze shifted slightly and landed on the girl waiting by the playground. Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but frown. Xiaowu is too lazy. It would be great if the mistress was not so emotional. Alas. Although Xiao Wu is a child with good talent, he is extremely undisciplined in his daily practice. In the past, Yu Xiaogang would not have felt that bad, and the training tasks he set for Xiao San were not heavy. But after increasing the amount of Xiao San's training, Xiao Wu often complained that Xiao San didn't have time to accompany her, which hindered Xiao San's training. Yu Xiaogang emphasized many times that Xiao Wu should not disturb Xiao San's training, but Xiao San always blamed himself for the mistake, leaving him with no choice but to leave it to him in the end. Withdrawing his gaze and lowering the curtains, Yu Xiaogang walked out of the office and went to the teacher's collective office. It's already time today. The Wahan Palace theory journal should have arrived, right? Yu Xiaogang thought to himself. Although he was dormant in Notting City, a junior soul master academy that was not popular, he still did not let go of his attention to the latest research in the theoretical world. Hey, have you heard? What did you hear? A holy son has been born from Wahan Palace, and he is now in Tiando City. How is that possible? The holy son is not in Wahan City, so why are you going to Tiando City? You must have drunk too much. Really, I have a student who has been exchanging letters with me until now. He is currently studying at Lanba Advanced Soul Master Academy. He said in the letter that the entire Tiando City knows about it. Wahan Palace, son. As soon as Yu Xiao opened the door, she heard the words Wahan Palace. Her eyes couldn't help but fluctuate a little, thinking of that beautiful silhouette. But immediately, a trace of unwillingness and hatred emerged from the bottom of his heart. When they parted ways, Bib Dong's contemptuous eyes and sarcastic words had never been forgotten by him over the years. The nails pierced into the palm of his hand, but the pain was not as painful as the hurt those words had caused him. Yu Xiaogang exhaled, suppressed the depression in his heart, and said secretly, Bib Dong, I must teach a disciple who is better and more powerful than you. Let you know your original choice, what a mistake. Quote. As soon as the door was opened, the collective office suddenly became silent. Seeing that the person coming was Yu Xiaogang, everyone chuckled lightly and started talking again without even looking at him, treating him like nothing. Yu Xiaogang was indifferent to the vague isolation of these teachers, so he went to the journal storage area and pulled out the Woolhundian Theory Journal, as if no one was watching. The college usually orders multiple copies and puts them in the collective office for teachers to watch, but except for him, basically no teacher will read them. Yu Xiaogang sneered at their behavior of ignoring theory. If you don't even understand the latest theory, how can you teach students well? After picking up the journal, Yu Xiaogang returned to his office, sat back in his seat, and started reading. He looks very carefully and usually tests his theory against his own to see whose theory is more reasonable. This article is nothing more than an old book repackaged, and it cannot be considered elegant. Yu Xiaogang commented while reading. Is this just a replica of my 10 core competencies of Wahan? Is this considered a new theory? This Wahan Palace theory journal is getting worse and worse. Yu Xiaogang shook his head. As he looked at it, Yu Xiaogang's eyes suddenly froze and he stared at the words in the journal. The hand holding the journal began to tremble slightly. Suddenly everything went dark, and Yu Xiaogang couldn't see clearly. He almost fainted, but his vision soon returned to clarity. Impossible, impossible. An almost inaudible voice came from Yu Xiaogang's lips. Gradually, the voice slowly became louder and finally resounded throughout the room. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It actually says that martial arts can evolve. Malignantly mutated martial arts spirits also have a chance to become stronger. The ultimate martial spirit, the ultimate attributes. These concepts never existed before. Bullshit. He can easily overthrow this theory. Aren't you a real example? Just like Luo Sanpao, can he still evolve? Are you kidding me? I have studied for decades, and there is absolutely no possibility of Luo Sanpao. He is a malignant mutant martial spirit. There is no possibility of evolution. Yu Xiaogang looked ferocious and could not accept this theory at all. This was simply denying all his previous efforts for Luo Sanpao. Apart from that, what other bullshit evolution and alienation is there? The closer it is to the original attributes of a martial spirit, the more likely it is to evolve. And that kind of thing that is very different. What kind of plant-type martial soul is attached to a non-plant-type soul beast to obtain other attributes? Is it considered alienation? Nonsense. If this theory is true, wouldn't it deny his teachings to Tang San all along? Has he been leading Tang San on the path of alienation? This theory can almost eliminate most of the 10 core competitivenesses of Wahan that he is proud of. All his life's work will be in vain. Here's nonsense. Here's nonsense. He slapped the table, his expression became quite angry, and he gritted his teeth and denounced, I don't even know what to say. Anger surged up, and Yu Xiaogang's eyes turned red. He swept away all the objects on the table and smashed them on the ground. I want to refute him. How can this kind of fallacy be allowed to appear openly in the journals of Wuhan City? After a long time, Yu Xiaogang became slightly more awake, but the first thing he thought of was to refute this theory. I am an example. This theory is simply untenable. Yu Xiaogang looked like a madman and picked up the journal from the ground again. Yes, I can refute him by using myself as an example. Let me see, let me look who wrote it. Be sure to refute him. Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao. Yi Renxin. Yu Xiaogang was stunned, the anger on his face actually solidified. Impossible. How could Yi Renxin express such fallacy? Yu Xiaogang immediately felt ridiculous. You know, Yi Renxin is an old man, and he is very cautious about what he says, let alone making such ridiculous remarks. Given Yi Renxin's status, it would be almost impossible for him to refute the other party. His reputation in the theoretical circles is not good, and everyone will only believe Yi Renxin more. Cheng Xiao. No way. The figure of the child appeared in Yu Xiaogang's mind. Yu Xiaogang quickly flipped through the journal to find the origin of Cheng Xiao. Nodding City Junior Soul Master Academy, Yuexuan. Ha 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 ha. In an instant, Yu Xiaogang's anger dissipated and he burst into laughter. I have seen that he is a bit deviant before, but I didn't expect that he would dare to express theories at such a young age. Is he knowledgeable? Only then did Yu Xiaogang recall that many of the theories in this journal were some of the nonsense that this kid had occasionally said in the past few years. At first, he thought the kid was still young and didn't care about it, but he didn't expect that now this kid would actually. He pieced together things here and there to come up with a pseudo-theory and published it. Senior Yi must have been deceived by this kid. Yu Xiaogang shook his head and sighed. I never thought that Saint Hand Renxin would be confused one day. Thinking of this, the corners of Yu Xiaogang's mouth turned up slightly. Fortunately, I discovered it early, otherwise if someone exposed it in a few years, Senior Yi's reputation would be stinky. Now let me reveal it. As long as I target that person Cheng Xiao, if we don't involve Senior Yi, we can save Senior Yi's reputation. I think Senior Yi will be grateful to me afterwards. He planned to directly expose Cheng Xiao's true face and label him a solid liar. Haha, at such a young age, I am not practical, yet I want to engage in these crooked ways. I can't take the path of a soul master, so I want to take the path of theory. Do you think anyone can become a master of theory? Yu Xiaogang was extremely excited. Couldn't wait to take out a pen and paper, and quickly wrote a refutation. Boom. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Yu Xiaogang was excited about writing, but after hearing it, he couldn't help but frown. But then, when he saw the disciple Tang San pushing through the door, his brows widened. Teacher, I have completed the task. Tang San panted, wiping the sweat from his forehead. Yu Xiaogang nodded. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. If he published it together with his soul ring theory, his refutation would be more convincing. And the premise of all this is that Tang San breaks through level 30 as soon as possible. Wait in another 10 kilograms and run 5 kilometers. Yu Xiaogang nodded calmly. Ah, Tang San was stunned, but me, I just finished running. Yu Xiaogang frowned again and criticized. You have only been focusing on traveling with Xiao Wu recently, and you have been a little slack. Look how long you have stayed at level 29. You must step up your training and break through level 30 as soon as possible. Tang San opened his mouth, wanting to say that he had only broken through for less than 3 months, but thinking that he and Xiaowu had traveled a lot in recent days, he said dejectedly, "Okay. Teacher, I listen to you." After saying that, he dragged his exhausted body out of the office and returned to the playground to sweat profusely. Yu Xiaogang smiled happily, and then concentrated on writing the manuscript again. If you become a liar at such a young age, I will expose your true colors and make you lose face in the theoretical world in the future. Yu Xiaogang swore bitterly. The theoretical community fell into a strange atmosphere because of Cheng Xiao's manuscript. No one stood up to support it, and only a few echoed it. Most of them just watched indifferently, watching him build tall buildings. However, at this moment, Shui Qinghe took action, standing up for Cheng Xiao's theory in public, praising this theory, and highlighting Cheng Xiao's contribution to this theory, making people look beyond Yi Ren's mind and body, transferred to this humble name. Driven by Shui Qinghe, the direction of the wind gradually began to change. A few theoretical scholars began to stand up and praise it, which in turn triggered a lot of debates. Cheng Xiao's theory soon set off a trend, and countless people were thinking about the ultimate attributes and the authenticity of the ultimate martial spirit. Suddenly, someone discovered that there was actually a girl in Tianshui Academy. According to this theory, the Ice Phoenix martial spirit, innate 9th level soul power, and ice attributed soul power with a temperature that almost reached the extreme, did not coincide with the description of the ultimate ice in the ultimate attribute. Somewhat similar. For a time, Tianshui College was bustling with people, and countless theoretical scholars came one after another, almost crushing the threshold of Tianshui College. In addition, the reactions of the other major Soul Master sects were different. For example, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect seemed to have no reaction, the Wahan Palace had an ambiguous attitude, and the lower 4 sects were even more noncommittal, as if the major forces had discussed it and would not comment. Qibao Glazed Sect. Ning Fengji put down the journal in his hand, was silent for a while, and murmured, "Martial soul evolution. If it is really successful, can the 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda go one step further?" Sword Douluo on the side saw this and said, "If you are really interested, we will go find Yi Renxin. Ask him, and I believe he will not deny his face." Ning Fengji thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "Let the wind blow for a while. No one has refuted this theory yet, so I'm afraid it will cause a stir. It's not appropriate to end it now, lest it becomes a laughing stock." But Qinghe seems to have stood up for him early. Bone Douluo frowned. After all, he is a disciple of Ning Fengji, and to a certain extent, he also represents the Qibao Glazed sect. He may have his own considerations. I'll ask him another day, but we are responsible for our sect's reputation. Ning Fengji said. Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo nodded. At this time, a man hurriedly broke in and reported in a panic, "Sect Master, Miss, she is missing again. Didn't I tell you to watch the young lady? Why did you let her slip out again?" A look of reproach appeared on Ning Fengji's handsome face. Sword Douluo waved his hand with a smile and persuaded, "Okay, Rongrong is still young. If you restrain her like this, will she be happy? It's okay to let her go out to play more. It's just a matter of time. Nothing will happen if we go to Tiando City." Bone Douluo nodded in agreement. Yes, anyway, with Ningqi secretly following him, nothing big will happen. Wouldn't it be great if someone informed Qinghe and asked him to help send Rongrong back? When Ning Fengji heard this, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was troubled by his daughter's temper and felt helpless at the doting of the two-titled Douluo. "Uncle Jian, Uncle Bone, just spoil her. Rongrong will be spoiled by you sooner or later." Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo laughed, not dissatisfied, but rather proud of it. However, after saying a few words, the two-titled Douluo started to argue, and the topic of the argument turned out to be favoring Ning Rongrong. When Ning Fengji saw this, he could only sigh and let them go. Tiando Auction House. Cheng Xiao and Yi Lingling Dugayan arrived at the predetermined location under the leadership of the beautiful young woman in enchanting attire. This time, Cheng Xiao came here because Cheng Xiao saw a soul guide similar to the Rui treasure bag in the brochure of Tiando Auction House, which can store living things and keep the herbs stored in it fresh. Cheng Xiao was going to take a photo of it. With a replacement, he no longer had to think about Douluo's wishful treasure bag. Hey, isn't this the holy son of Wahan Palace? As soon as Cheng Xiao sat down, a pleasant joking sound came from beside him. The three of them were stunned and looked at the person beside them, only to see that she was hidden in a black gauze robe. Under the dim light, it was difficult to see her appearance clearly. What? We haven't seen each other for only 3 months and you don't recognize me anymore. The man took off the hood that covered his head, revealing long golden hair like a waterfall, and his beautiful cheeks made people slightly stunned. Chien Runway. Cheng Xiao's mouth twitched. We just met yesterday, okay. Where did 3 months come from? Do you really think I don't know you or Shui Qinghe? Ah, sister, why are you here? Yi Lingling was a little surprised. Quickly hugging Chien Runway's arm, Du Guyan also moved closer. They changed their seats and the three girls began to whisper. Cheng Xiao shrugged and did not join in the woman's conversation, silently waiting for what he needed. This is a soul guide that can store living things, and the plants stored in it can also remain active all year round without decay. On the stage, the auctioneer introduced various information about the soul guide. Cheng Xiao sat up slightly and prepared to take the photo. His Royal Highness the Holy Sun, do you want this? At some point, Yi Lingling and Chien Runway changed seats, and Chien Runway's teasing came from beside them. Because the auction house was extremely noisy, Chien Runway came closer, and her slightly warm breath hit her ears, which made people laugh. A little bit distracted. Cheng Xiao glanced at it, and even though her plump breasts were hidden under the black gauze robe, she could still feel the spectacular scale. Calmly changing his gaze, Cheng Xiao looked at the stage and said angrily, you don't know if he is the Holy Sun or not. It's all the fault of your token. How could Chien Runway not notice Cheng Xiao's hidden gaze? She narrowed her eyes and raised the corners of her mouth. It seemed that this boy was not invulnerable. Chien Runway glanced at the slightly cute Yi Lingling again, and then her eyes rested on Du Guyan's proud round thighs. I couldn't help but chuckle in my heart, this boy was quite lucky. Could it be that she is a good woman? But yes, he is almost 12 years old, and young people at this age are at the age of spring. Chien Runway was thinking about whether to send a few maids to Cheng Xiao as Shui Qinghe, and said, I have read your theory, and it is very well written. Many people think it makes sense. Cheng Xiao called out a price, and then talked to Chien Runway in a low voice, I have to thank Prince Shui Qinghe for his support. Otherwise, if I want everyone to accept it, I'm afraid it will take a year or two at least. There was joy hidden in the corners of Chien Runway's eyes. She had finally achieved something. She had done so much with Shui Qinghe's identity, so it was not in vain. Cheng Xiao naturally did not let go of Chien Runway's change. He raised the corner of his mouth to give you a little sweetness to make you happy. Otherwise, how could he take the bait later? There must be some bait so the fish will bite. Thank you also. Without your help, I might not have been able to complete the proof of this theory. Chien Runway blinked and said, is this why you wrote my name? Ang, you have put in a lot of effort, how can I let your work go in vain? On the stage, the soul guide was finally photographed by Cheng Xiao. Let's go. Cheng Xiao stood up, stretched himself, took out the token from his arms, and gave it back to Chien Runway, I'll give this back to you. Chien Runway was stunned and asked, have you finished your theory? I have read what you published, and there seems to be a hook at the end, as if there is something unfinished. Cheng Xiao smiled. I have finished writing it a long time ago, but I have to wait for the wind to blow again and the heat to rise, so that I can strike while the iron is hot and publish the next article. The next article is about the theory about the limits of soul rings, and this will also be his talisman. When this theory is published, he will no longer have to worry about anything, and can unscrupulously reveal the 1000-year soul ring, and even the subsequent soul ring transcendence. No need to worry about the limit. Chien Runway was thoughtful. Let's go. Cheng Xiao greeted Du Guyan and Yi Lingling to leave. At this moment, a new auction item appeared on the stage. Suddenly, Cheng Xiao seemed to feel something and suddenly looked towards the stage. This thing was obtained from the belly of an 80,000-year-old sea soul beast. It is quite strange. It has 9 rings. It was something similar to a fidget spinner. I don't know what material it was made of. The 9 rings were of various sizes. One ring was embedded in the other and could not be disassembled, but they could rotate independently. There were countless weird glyphs engraved on the 9 rings. Texture. When it rotates, it makes a sound similar to a dragon's roar and emits a protective shield. We have tried it before, and it can block the Soul Emperor's blow. After a day, this protective shield will be restored, but it will be weaker than before. As he spoke, the auctioneer fiddled with the 9 rings. As the 9 rings rubbed, a dragon roar sounded that shook the entire auction house, and then a light curtain enveloped it. After many attempts, we can now only withstand the attack of the Soul King. I have to say that this is a pity. There should be some kind of energy stored in this object, which will become less and less as it is used. We have not been able to study how yet. Supplement. The starting price is 100,000 gold soul coins. Wow! There were shouts of surprise in the auction house, obviously a little shocked by the price of this item. But there are still many people who are eager to try it. After all, even if they have been used many times, they can at least withstand the attack of the Soul King. Countless people with weaker abilities are willing to pay high prices to buy them, especially auxiliary soul masters. In a short period of time, the auction price has exceeded 150,000 gold soul coins. What's wrong? Yi Lingling held Cheng Xiao's hand and was a little curious about Cheng Xiao's reaction. Let's wait and see. Cheng Xiao took a deep breath, led the two of them back to their seats, and then stared at the lot thoughtfully. The moment the auction item came on stage, he had a strange feeling, which was very similar to the feeling he had when he saw the 2 dragon souls in the eyes of ice and fire. There's something wrong with this thing. Chien Runway was a little curious when she saw him sitting back again. She suddenly realized that he was staring at the auction items on the stage intently. Her beautiful eyes turned slightly and the corners of her mouth curved. What do you want? Yi Lingling felt Cheng Xiao's slightly strong palm and asked softly in his ear. Cheng Xiao hesitated for a moment and nodded. Okay. Yi Lingling didn't know what he was thinking, and he immediately felt happy and pressed the button. 160,000 gold soul coins. I'll give it to you. Yi Lingling blinked. Hiss. 160,000. Didn't you realize that this little girl is still a rich woman? Cheng Xiao glanced at Yi Lingling in surprise, but then thought that Yi Renxin must have gained more or less from treating people, so he felt normal. 170,000. 173,000. The price soared, causing many people to withdraw from the competition. Only one person was left to compete with Yi Lingling. The two secretly competed and pushed the auction price to 250,000. 250,000. Yi Lingling called out the price again. 300,000. The other side seemed to be fighting for real. He stood up and looked at Yi Lingling's position behind him. He gritted his teeth and said rather arrogantly, "Let me see who dares to steal something from my Qibao glazed sect. I won't buy it. Something you can't get." The girl Wuji didn't even wear a mask. She obviously relied on her identity and was not afraid of trouble from those who wanted to. It's actually her. Yi Lingling was a little surprised. That girl was the unruly girl he saw in the hotel. Ning Rongrong. Cheng Xiao narrowed his eyes and glanced at Chien Runway beside him calmly. Chien Runway remained indifferent and showed no flaws. She originally came as Shui Qinghe to bring Ning Rongrong back to Qibao City today, but she didn't expect that when she arrived at the Tiando auction house, she happened to bump into Cheng Xiao and the others. They had to wait for Ning Rongrong to come out, so Shui Qinghe simply dismissed everyone and came to communicate with Cheng Xiao as Chien Runway. Not to mention she was still wearing a mask. Even if she wasn't wearing one, Ning Rongrong wouldn't be able to recognize her current appearance. Yi Lingling continued to bid. 301,000. 350,000. Ning Rongrong followed without hesitation. She must win this lot today. Not only does she need protection as an auxiliary soul master, but more importantly, she can sense that this thing is not as simple as it seems. Her 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda not only has a supporting role, as a gem-like martial spirit, it also has extremely powerful treasure identification capabilities. The moment this lot appeared, her 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda had already identified that this item was anything but ordinary. Therefore, we must win it at any cost. Yi Lingling was a little annoyed. The other party was obviously trying to force her out with such an offer, but how could she be easy to get along with? Just as she was about to bid, Cheng Xiao held her hand and shook her head. "Let's go, we don't want the things anymore." "Ah, but," Yi Lingling was a little reluctant. She had considerable financial resources and felt that she could outcompete the other party. She is the daughter of the head of the Qibao Glazed Sect. There is no need to compete with her. Cheng Xiao consoled her. Ning Fengji bought hidden weapons from Tang San and could easily come up with 5 million gold soul coins. Even if Ning Rongrong couldn't come up with 5 million, he still had extremely abundant financial resources. Although Yi Lingling has a lot, it is definitely not as good as the financial resources of a sect. Even if it is taken at that time, the price will far exceed its value. There is really no need for it. After some earnest persuasion, Yi Lingling finally gave up his competitive spirit. Yi Lingling pursed his lips and said, "Okay, then it's up to you. Let's go first." After saying hello to Chien Runway, the three of them left. Chien Runway said goodbye to a few people with a smile. When they left the site, the smile on Chien Runway's face slowly faded. Anyone else wants to bid? 350,000 is a big number. It seems that this lady likes this lot very much. 350,000, 350,000 third. Seeing that the dust was about to settle, the anger on Ning Rongrong's face was replaced by a smile. However, just as the auctioneer was about to drop the hammer, someone suddenly bid again, and this time, the price shocked everyone and the entire venue fell into an eerie silence. 51 million. Ning Rongrong's smile froze on her face. Chien Runway's jade hand slowly withdrew from the button. As a disciple of Ning Fengji, she naturally knew the limit of what Ning Rongrong could endure. Therefore, she directly bid a number that was just beyond Ning Rongrong's range, blocking the possibility of Ning Rongrong bidding again. Ning Rongrong is rich and powerful, isn't she? With the two major forces of Wahan Palace and Tiando Empire behind her, the financial resources she could provide far exceeded Ning Rongrong. Wow! After a moment of silence, the venue burst into wild cheers, as if to pay tribute to this terrifyingly high price. Walking to the delivery office, after settling the settlement, Cheng Xiao got the soul guidance device he wanted. It was a bracelet-type soul guidance device, which seemed to be relatively neutral and suitable for both men and women. After the delivery was completed, Cheng Xiao and the two of them walked out of the Tiando auction house and prepared to go back. "Holy Sun, please wait a moment." Suddenly, there was a shout from behind. If Cheng Xiao was struck by lightning, does everyone think he is the Holy Sun now? Cheng Xiao turned around and angrily shouted, "I am not the Holy Sun. Don't call me Holy Sun in the future." I understand. The person who came was a middle-aged man. He panted and wiped the sweat from his forehead, and gave a subtle look in return. PFF'd. Yi Lingling and Du Guyan laughed out loud. Cheng Xiao said angrily, "What's the matter? Tell me quickly." The man quickly took out a box and handed it over. "A guest asked me to give this to you personally." "Huh." Cheng Xiao took it with some confusion, opened it and saw that it was the mysterious 9-ring auction. "Huh, who took the photo?" Yi Lingling came over, slightly surprised, and then suddenly realized, did eldest sister take the photo? It should be her. Cheng Xiao smiled. Apart from Chien Runway, probably no one would spend such a large sum of money to take a photo of a decent-looking item and give it to herself. "Let's go. Aren't you going back to thank her?" Du Guyan asked. "Let's talk about it next time we meet. If you want to win over yourself, how can you not pay a price? If he doesn't do it for nothing, it can be considered a great honor." Cheng Xiao was thinking about whether he should give this woman more sweetness. He just expressed his gratitude and asked her to spend so much money. If he gave her a piece of fairy grass, he might have a lot of things thrown at him. It's a good idea, but I don't know if it's enough for her to steal the Poseidon's heart. Stop. Several people were about to leave when suddenly, a burst of angry shouts came from behind them. What are you, Juxin Haitang? Everyone in the venue was wearing masks, and Ning Rongrong chased them out using only their clothes. Seeing the appearance of several people at this time, he recalled the Juxin Begonia mentioned by senior brother Prince in the hotel before. At this time, she was no longer as ignorant as before. After returning last time, after learning about Juxin Haitang's abilities from her father, she learned that there was actually a martial spirit that could threaten their family's #1 auxiliary martial spirit status. Although he received some attention, Ning Rongrong did not change his unruly temperament. He pointed at the box in Cheng Xiao's hand and said directly, "Sell it to me. You can open it for as much as you want." The voice paused a little, "It's just that you have to give me some time to go home and get the money." Yi Lingling rolled his eyes. "We are not short of money. As if no one has it, our family is not poor, right?" Du Guyan was even more rude. He had been unhappy with her arrogant behavior in the venue before. "We don't plan to sell. You can go to whoever you like. We won't tolerate you. Sorry, we don't plan to take action." Chien Runway gave such a big gift, but he hadn't even studied it yet, so how could he sell it to her? My family belongs to the Qibao Glazed Sect. Ning Rongrong was anxious and stopped in front of several people. "What? If you can't buy it, you want to use your power to overwhelm others and grab it directly?" Du Guyan said coldly, "Is this the style of the Qibao Glazed Sect?" You are talking nonsense." Ning Rongrong's face turned red. "I just want to say that my house is affordable, as long as you bid. If you don't sell, you won't sell." Cheng Xiao frowned. He was also a little dissatisfied with Ning Rongrong's forced buying and selling behavior. "You've already said you won't sell it, so why are you still entangled? Do you really think that everyone is a disciple of her Qibao Glazed Sect and they have to coax her?" I'm so sincere, how come you?" Ning Rongrong didn't feel that there was anything wrong with herself. She was a little aggrieved and a little angry. "Okay, miss." Cheng Xiao waved his hand impatiently. "This is not the Qibao Glazed Sect, and not everyone has to coax you unconditionally. If you want to act like a miss, please go back to your home." After saying that, Cheng Xiao walked around Ning Rongrong. "Stop, what do you mean? Speak clearly to me." At this moment, a warm voice sounded. "Rongrong, have you had enough fun? It's time to go back." Everyone looked for the voice and saw Prince Shui Qinghe appearing from nowhere and coming to everyone. Seeing how calmly he came, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but feel a little strange in his heart. Wasn't this woman's role changing too fast? Just now, I appeared as a woman inside, and now I have immediately changed into a man. Doesn't it take time to adapt? Brother Prince, you came just in time. Please lend me money quickly. I want to buy what they have. Ning Rongrong's eyes lit up when Shui Qinghe arrived. To this day, she still believes that the other party refuses to sell just because he is worried that she will not be able to get the money. If a senior brother from the prince lent her money and delivered it on the spot, these people would definitely not refuse. No one can refuse the offensive of money. This is what past experience told her. "Your Highness the Crown Prince." Cheng Xiao saluted Yi Lingling. Du Guyan followed Du Gubo's temperament and treated Shui Qinghe without any pretense. He turned his head to the side and didn't even say hello. Cheng Xiao wanted to tell her that just now you were as close as sisters inside, but you fell out when you came out. What's going on? Shui Qinghe nodded to a few people and asked immediately. Ning Rongrong immediately described it with added detail. But she didn't expect that Shui Qinghe would not stand on her side at all. Instead, he said with a reproachful look on his face, "Rongrong, if people don't want to sell, how can you forcefully buy and sell?" "I didn't force them to buy or sell. I promised to give them whatever they wanted." Ning Rongrong opened her mouth, a little confused. Seeing her confused look, Cheng Xiao almost laughed out loud. "It was your senior brother who bought the things for me, and you asked him to help you make the decision. You found an undercover agent, did you know that? Guys, I'm really sorry. Rongrong is still young and a little ignorant. I hope you can forgive me." Shui Qinghe's face was full of apologies, and it was completely impossible to tell that he was an undercover agent who bought the things. Cheng Xiao couldn't help but give Shui Qinghe a thumbs up from the bottom of his heart. This acting skill is amazing. He's half as good as me. This person plays two roles, and there is absolutely no sense of inconsistency. Ning Rongrong kicked her feet and secretly cursed, "Who is ignorant? Grandpa Jian and Grandpa Bone say I am the most sensible." After all, Ning Rongrong still failed to buy the coveted lot. After chatting with Shui Qinghe that day, the two parties parted ways. Under Shui Qinghe's suppression, Ning Rongrong had no room for resistance and could only follow Shui Qinghe back to Qibao City silently. But before leaving, Ning Rongrong glared at Cheng Xiao and said, "Just wait for me." Cheng Xiao didn't take it to heart. After returning home, he began to try the mystery of the mysterious 9 rings. But no matter how he studied it, that weird feeling never appeared again, and it only had an ordinary defensive function. This made Cheng Xiao very disappointed. The soul guide that can withstand the attack of the Soul King always feels a little less interesting, and it feels like it is tasteless and a pity to abandon. Unable to figure out the reason, Cheng Xiao had no choice but to give up and found a red rope and tied it around his waist. Focus your energy on something else instead. That is the fairy grass, Yushang Qiluo fairy. In the past few months, Cheng Xiao has caught several soft bone rabbits every day and conducted poisoning tests. But on this day, a soft bone rabbit did not die after being invaded by toxins. Cheng Xiao knew that this flower was most likely the Yushang Qiluo immortal. But just to be on the safe side, Cheng Xiao spent 2 or 3 days trying all the other flowers. The final results showed that only this flower had such an effect. He caught several soft bone rabbits again. The cautious Cheng Xiao obtained 7 or 8 kinds of toxins from Douluo and tried them on several soft bone rabbits one by one. After half a day of observation, the soft bone rabbits were still alive and kicking. Cheng Xiao's worried heart finally relaxed. That's it shouldn't have escaped. Cheng Xiao looked at the flowers in front of him, his pupils flashing. At this time, in front of him, a pale pink flower was swaying gently with the mist. It had no leaves and a 3-foot-long stem. The flower was huge, with a full foot diameter. Each petal looked as clear as crystal. The fragrance is light and light, just like the fragrance of virgin body, but it can float far away. In the original work, there is no method for picking the Yushang Qiluo immortal. Cheng Xiao has no way to judge, so he can only take a gamble and pick it by hand. Crack! Cheng Xiao took off the Yushang Qiluo immortal product. The ambrosia has not withered. Cheng Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. Do you want to eat it or not? Cheng Xiao's eyes flickered. Just holding this fairy grass in his hand has the ability to resist poison. But that's not what Cheng Xiao wanted. He couldn't hold this flower in one hand while fighting with others, right? But in the original work, there is no method of eating it. After weighing it for a long time, Cheng Xiao gritted his teeth and decided to swallow it directly. In the original work, there are only a few words describing that this fairy grass is the nemesis of hundreds of poisons. It is not poisonous itself and cannot detoxify, but it can restrain all toxins. Since it is non-toxic, it is unlikely to cause death due to incorrect consumption. It's useless at best and allows him to gamble. Tang San didn't choose to take it because he was a poison user himself, especially the 8 spider spear's extremely shocking poison. There was no way Tang San would give up on such a killing weapon. If he takes the fairy grass, it will definitely conflict with it, and most likely he will just devour it. In addition, Tang San's various hidden weapons required toxins, so taking the Yushang Qiluo immortal product would outweigh the benefits. But Cheng Xiao is different. He doesn't have any poisoning methods, and he has no intention of developing in this direction in the future. So taking Yushang Qiluo immortal product will have more advantages than disadvantages. 20,000 years later, this flower merged with Qiluo tulip, becoming a 200,000-year soul beast, and finally transformed into Tang Wulan's soul. Its effect is extremely terrifying. It can change Tang Wulan's aura and eliminate all poisons. Changing breath and detoxifying are all abilities that Cheng Xiao covets. If you can wait 10,000 years, let it break through 100,000 years, and have spiritual wisdom, you can turn it into a soul. After all, that method has been verified and there is no risk. But Cheng Xiao couldn't wait that long. Therefore, he is willing to take a gamble on whether the bicycle can be transformed into a motorcycle. With the idea clear, Cheng Xiao stuffed it directly into his mouth. This kind of rude approach would be a waste of resources in the eyes of poison masters like Tang San or Yang Wudi. The fairy grass enters the throat and flows down the river. Cheng sat cross-legged on the ground and waited quietly for the medicine to take effect. Why is this kid practicing so late today? Seeing that the sky was getting dark, Douluo frowned and came to the ice and fire eyes, only to find that Cheng Xiao fell to the ground, with no breath in his body. What the hell is he doing again? Douluo hurried over to check, but just when he was about to touch Cheng Xiao took a long breath, as if he had just woken up from a breathless situation, and suddenly raised his head and looked at the approaching Douluo. What are you doing? Douluo was furious. What are you doing? You are pretending to be a ghost. I thought you were dead. Cheng Xiao touched himself and found that there were no missing parts, so he exhaled, fortunately, everything is fine. What did you just do? Du Gubo frowned. I took a medicinal herb. I don't know if it has any effect. Cheng Xiao sensed the condition of his body, and suddenly, it seemed like some kind of intuition appeared in his heart. Hearing this, Du Gubo burst into anger. You're eating indiscriminately again. Didn't I tell you not to eat indiscriminately? I don't even know a few of these herbs, and many of them are even highly poisonous. If you eat indiscriminately, be careful and they will poison you. As Cheng Xiao thought, an invisible wave seemed to spread out. Du Gubo sniffed and felt a little strange. What smells so good? As soon as Cheng Xiao changed his mind, the fragrance disappeared. Gone. Upon noticing these changes, Cheng Xiao was overjoyed. It's done. He looked up at Du Gubo with burning eyes. Grandpa Dugu, do you have the kind of poison with an antidote? To be on the safe side, let's do a little experiment. Who do you want to poison? Don't mess around. After saying this, Du Gubo still took out 2 porcelain bottles from the Rui treasure bag and threw them to Cheng Xiao. The purple one is the poison, the blue one is the antidote. Without saying a word, Cheng Xiao opened the purple porcelain bottle and drank the poison inside. Are you crazy? Du Gubo was shocked when he saw this. He quickly grabbed Cheng Xiao's neck and kept shaking. Spit it out, spit it out. Cheng Xiao almost rolled his eyes and said intermittently, I didn't poison him to death. You strangled him to death. When Du Gubo heard this, he also reacted. He quickly took the antidote from Cheng Xiao's hand, opened Cheng Xiao's mouth and poured it in. He looked like he was treating Cheng Xiao as a duck and wanted to fill his stomach with it. Wait a minute. Cheng Xiao quickly pushed Du Gubo's hand away and said angrily, do you think I've been poisoned? Du Gubo was shocked and wondered, what's going on? This poison can act within 2 breaths, causing unbearable pain in the internal organs. If the antidote is not taken for a while, it will penetrate the intestines and cause rot in the stomach. But the 2-breath time is up. Why does Cheng Xiao act like nothing is wrong? This small attempt has proved that Cheng Xiao can resist toxins. Cheng Xiao's eyes flashed brightly and he was quite excited. Looking at this appearance, he seems to have become a humanoid Yushang Qiluo immortal. A field that can emit poisonous mist can also change its own aura at any time, and is immune to all poisons. In other words, he can directly release fragrance to attract soul beasts in the future, and he can also cover his aura instantly. Apart from this, all poisons are ineffective against him. Cheng Xiao thought of Tang San's Baiji hidden weapon. All the hidden weapons in Tang San's hidden weapon Baiji that relied on poison, such as bat wings, reincarnation, etc., would have no effect on him. I took that herb, and now my body is invulnerable to all poisons. Cheng Xiao raised his head. Grandpa Dugu, try using your poison. Invulnerable to all poisons. Du Gubo was stunned. His face immediately turned ugly. Do you know what you are talking about? What he is most proud of in his life is this poison. Now someone actually says in front of him that he is immune to all poisons. Isn't this a slap in the face? Hearing this, Cheng Xiao smiled evilly. Of course. This means that from now on, your poison will have no effect on me. Unless you directly kill me with your soul power. HMPH. That's shameless talk, Du Gubo said with a cold expression, feeling a little annoyed in his heart. Although he valued this boy very much now, it didn't mean that he wouldn't be angry if the thing he was most proud of was despised. Would you like to give it a try? I'm quite curious too. Cheng Xiao shrugged. Are you really not afraid? Du Gubo narrowed his eyes and threatened in a sinister tone, my toxin corrodes very quickly. Be careful and you will turn into a pile of bones before the antidote takes effect. Cheng Xiao smiled and said nothing, replying only with expressions. Okay, if you want to die, I will help you. Du Gubo smiled angrily, wanting to teach him a lesson. He waved his hand, and his soul power surged out, turning into poisonous mist, and rolled towards Cheng Xiao, but in fact, it was in his hands. Always have the antidote ready to prevent this kid from actually dying. As for the corrosive injury, it would be good to let him have a long memory, so as not to know the depth of the sky in the future. When the time comes, he can return to Tiando City and let Lao Yi treat it. The poisonous mist shrouded Cheng Xiao, but not a single wail came from Cheng Xiao. Through the thick poisonous mist, Bo could even see the figure leisurely twisting his neck and relaxing his shoulders in the poisonous mist. The next moment, Cheng Xiao used his hands together, combining softness and strength to blow out a rotating wind pressure, gathering the shrouded poisonous mist in his hands, and then threw it into the eyes of the ice and fire eyes, and was instantly wiped out by the eyes of the ice and fire eyes. Bo stared with a look of disbelief on his face. How could it be possible? His toxin is difficult for people under the Soul King to resist even if they use martial arts and soul power. Above the Soul King, it is necessary to release martial arts and soul skills to barely avoid being eroded by the poison. That day in front of Yuexuan Gate, he knocked everyone down by surprise, which was enough to show the horror of this poison. But now, this kid didn't show any signs of being contaminated by toxins, and he even threw out his toxins just like he did with Yan Yan. Is this kid really invulnerable to all poisons? Sure enough, Cheng Xiao thought to himself. He touched his body and there was no sign of poisoning. You kid, what kind of herbs are you taking? It has such effect. Bo's face was complicated, his heart was sour and astringent, and he only felt a slight sense of frustration. The poison of his majestic title Douluo, even the title is poison, but it can't poison a child. Bo was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Just the pale pink flower. Bo felt strange in his heart, using his own flowers to make others invulnerable to poisons to deal with his own poisons. Why do you feel like you are an enemy? The more I thought about it, the more something was wrong. Bo waved his sleeves angrily and said, let's go. It's already night, so you're the only one who's dawdling. Why, also, don't touch my medicinal herbs in the future. Bo said in a bad tone, with a dark face and a depressed look. Grandpa why are you so stingy? Am I stingy? How many plants have you eaten? Your skin is itchy, right? Oh, don't be angry. I'm just trying to test the efficacy of the medicine. I've tried it out for you, and I'll keep the roots for you to grow back in the future. Can't you eat it too? Oh, yes, you can't eat this stuff, otherwise all your poisonous energy will be dissipated. Cheng Xiao suddenly felt that Bo was quite unlucky. Guarding such a big cornucopia, most of the fairy grass could not be eaten. Bo almost lost his temper. He really couldn't help but pick up the pot. Ouch, what are you doing? You just need to be dealt with. Quote. He happily returned home, but when he opened the door, Cheng Xiao saw Yi Lingling sitting in the hall crying, while Yan was holding the weak Yi Lingling to comfort him. The joy on Cheng Xiao's face suddenly froze, and his voice became extremely gloomy. What's going on? Are you being bullied in the academy? Yi Lingling raised her head and saw Cheng Xiao coming back. She stood up and threw herself into Cheng Xiao's arms. Her sobs suddenly turned into howls. Grandpa, he's dying. Woo-hoo-hoo. Cheng Xiao, help me. Grandpa. What? Cheng Xiao's expression changed drastically and he rushed to Yi Renxin's bedroom. Boom. Pushing the door open, Cheng Xiao saw Yi Renxin sitting on the bed, flipping through a book calmly. When Cheng Xiao came back, he closed the book. You're back. Cheng Xiao stood frozen on the spot, looking at Yi Renxin's appearance, and for some reason, he felt a little blocked in his heart. Although they had only been together for a few months, and he deliberately made friends with Yi Renxin's care for him was sincere. Now seeing Yi Renxin's appearance, I feel a little unbearable. Old Yi. Bo rushed in. Seeing Yi Renxin's appearance, he felt like he was struck by lightning. What's wrong with you? After learning that Bo had returned home, Yan hurried home to inform him of Yi Renxin's situation, and he rushed back immediately. At this time, Yi Renxin was actually far different from her appearance during the day. Although Yi Renxin looked old before, her hair was only slightly gray, and although her face was not full of vitality, there were not many wrinkles. But now, the man on the bed seemed to be very old, with silver hair and wrinkles on his face. He looked like he was dying, and he looked like he was about to die soon. That method failed. Ahem, it's okay. Yi Renxin coughed twice. That thing from Cheng Xiao is quite useful. It stimulated all the life potential in my body. I won't die in a short time, so don't worry. How long? Bo asked in a deep voice. Yi Renxin was silent for a while, and then smiled nonchalantly. This method is just for hanging your life. It can be extended for 1 or 2 years, which is the limit. Do you still want me to live forever? The method provided by Cheng Xiao was just for hanging his own life. After he obtained it, he just combined it with his soul power and found another way to stimulate his own life potential. And this method of stimulating life potential will naturally consume his vitality and make him suddenly become old. He didn't have high expectations. It would be nice if it could be extended for a year or two. During this period, he could do a lot of things, such as making Juxin Haitang grow. Okay, don't look miserable, it makes me look like I'm going to die soon. Yi Ren waved his hand openly and said with a smile, Cheng Xiao, go down and stay with Lingling and close the door for me. Quote. Well, Grandpa Yi, please go to bed early. Cheng Xiao nodded. He knew that Yi Renxin had something to tell Dugubo, so he stopped disturbing him and closed the door for Yi Renxin. Slowly going downstairs, Cheng Xiao felt heavy in his heart. The joy that he had gained from being invulnerable to all poisons also disappeared. Yu Xiaogang was very excited. Under his hard training, his disciple Tang San finally broke through level 30. Although this kind of training was a bit overloaded and squeezed a little bit of Tang San's potential, it was all worth it. When he enters the Advanced Soul Master Academy in the future, he will be able to make up for his body's shortcomings by making up for it a little more. But Soul Master, who has just turned 12, is unique and is definitely the top genius on the entire continent. What's more important is that after Tang San obtains the third spirit ring that transcends the limit, his theory will also have evidence, and his theory can finally be published. On the way to the Star Forest, Yu Xiaogang's heart was agitated, and countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Exposing Cheng Xiao's scam made him reviled by thousands of people, and his theory will once again shock the entire theoretical world. Teacher, where are we going? Tang San followed Yu Xiaogang and asked doubtfully. 12-year-old Tang San has almost caught up with Yu Xiaogang in height, reaching the tip of Yu Xiaogang's nose. Star Forest, Yu Xiaogang replied and hurried on his way. During the previous teaching process, Yu Xiaogang had mentioned the situation in the Stardo Forest to Tang San, so Tang San was not surprised. It's just that Tang San hesitated to speak, and finally didn't say anything. He wanted to ask, wouldn't it be dangerous for us two great soul masters to go to the Stardo Forest? But Tang San was afraid of hurting the teacher's sadness, so he kept silent. Arriving at the outskirts of the Stardo Forest, Yu Xiaogang did not lead Tang San in directly, but instead came to a wine shop on the outskirts where the spirit masters could rest. Wait for me here, Yu Xiaogang said. Okay, teacher. Tang San was left outside the wine shop. Yu Xiaogang walked into the wine shop, glanced around the noisy hall, and then went straight to a corner to sit down. There was a man in front of him holding a newspaper. When he heard the movement, he didn't even put down the newspaper and said, there is someone here. It's me. Yu Xiaogang's voice was low. The man quickly put down the newspaper with a look of surprise on his face. Xiaogang. You are finally here. He looked about 50 years old. He wore a pair of black-rimmed crystal glasses, his chin protruded forward, his cheekbones were wide, and his face was flat, like a shoehorn face. The hooked nose makes him look a bit cunning. Long time no see. Yu Xiaogang looked complicated. The person in front of him was Flanders, his good friend from the beginning. You finally contacted me. I rushed over as soon as I received your letter. Where have you been all these years? Erlong and I. Flanders was very excited to see his old friend again. Hearing that name, Yu Xiaogang's eyes flickered, and his expression was a little unnatural. He quickly raised his hand to stop Flanders. Okay. I didn't come to you to reminisce about the past. Those things have already passed. Flanders' face stiffened slightly and he sighed. It seemed that he still resisted what happened back then. In order to appease Yu Xiaogang and prevent him from disappearing again, Flanders had no choice but to follow him and said, okay, why did you come to me? Help my disciples hunt soul beasts. 2,000 years. You accepted a disciple. 2,000 years. The life limit of the 40-level soul ring is a bit low. Flanders frowned, wondering why Yu Xiaogang chose such a low life limit for his disciple. No, the third soul ring. Yu Xiaogang shook his head and said. Flanders, expression changed greatly, are you crazy? Something will happen to the third soul ring of 2,000 years. If Yu Xiaogang hadn't said that he was hunting soul beasts for his disciples, he would have thought that this man was Yu Xiaogang's enemy. If you absorb soul rings beyond the limit, you will die. I have prepared a new theory, and I am very sure of its success. In the past few years, Yu Xiaogang told Flanders the cause and effect. After a long time, Yu Xiaogang vowed, "That is my disciple. I have confidence in him. He will definitely succeed. He will definitely be able to verify my theory." Flanders pondered for a long time, finally took a long breath, nodded and said, "Okay. I trust your judgment." Yu Xiaogang's expressionless face finally relaxed a little and showed a smile. "Thank you." "We too, how can we say thank you?" After chatting for a while again, the two of them left the wine shop, took Tang San who was guarding outside, and headed to the Star Doe forest together. Flanders paced anxiously, his face clouded with worry. "It's not healed yet, it's not healed yet, it's been too long, will something happen? What should I do?" Next to him, Tang San was sitting cross-legged, with sweat on his forehead and a painful expression on his face. It was obvious that he had encountered obstacles in absorbing the spirit ring. In front of Tang San was a ferocious giant spider corpse. The spider was in the shape of 9 colors, and it was surrounded by cobwebs. The places covered by the cobwebs were full of traces of corrosion, which were left behind during the battle with Flanders. Of 2,000 years of colorful spiders. The 9-color spider has 9 kinds of toxins. Every time it eats a soul beast, the 9 toxins will change and become more poisonous. It can be said that the toxins of the 9-color spider are changing every day, and the winner will there is almost no cure. Seeing the pained expression on Tang San's face, Yu Xiaogang remained silent and expressionless, as if he wasn't worried at all. But his left arm was placed on his waist, the tip of his right elbow was supported on his left arm, and his gentle biting of his thumb showed his anxiety. He already regretted it. He shouldn't have taken such a risk. If he had known that it would be so difficult to absorb beyond the limit, he would have never let the mistress try it. If the mistress has 3 strengths and 2 weaknesses, that person. Thinking of that man's anger, Yu Xiaogang couldn't help but shudder. "It's all my fault, being blinded by theory. I should be more cautious. Xiao San should not be allowed to take risks. He should try it with others first. That Xiao Wu has a good talent, so it would be safer to let her try first." Just when Yu Xiaogang was regretting it, Tang San's expression calmed down, he opened his eyes, and then revealed a look of surprise. "Teacher, I succeeded." Yu Xiaogang woke up with a start, took a long breath after hearing this, and then felt ecstatic. It was a success. His theory finally has a basis. Able to publish. He couldn't wait to go back and complete the last bit of the theory. He wanted to see the shocked soul master world as soon as possible. And what happened to Cheng Xiao after he was exposed? But he still had a trace of reason left. He suppressed the excitement in his heart and asked, "Execute the 3rd soul skill and see." Tang San nodded, released his martial spirit, and the 3rd spirit ring lit up. In an instant, the blue-silver grass shot out, intertwined into a spider web, and tightly entangled a tree. Hiss. The trees withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. "The toxin is very strong. It seems that what I thought was right. The spider-like soul beast can further enhance the toughness of blue-silver grass and further strengthen the toxin." Yu Xiaogang commented. Tang San was also a little excited. "Teacher, my blue-silver grass has evolved a blood-draining effect. Every time it draws a different blood, my toxins can change. My toxins are almost indestructible. Only my blue-silver grass seeds can detoxify, but as long as the opponent accepts my blue-silver grass seeds, my 2nd soul skill will no longer need pre-parasitism and can be activated directly." Tang San was very satisfied with the effect of this toxin. This was almost prepared for him by nature. Only he could get rid of the evolving toxin. Evolution. Hearing this word, Yu Xiaogang looked a little unnatural, and instinctively thought of the liar's theory. According to his theory, this should be called alienation. No, what are you thinking? Those theories are all nonsense, they are all false, they are just fabricated. Very good soul skill, Xiaosan, you really didn't disappoint me. Yu Xiaogang praised. The few of them chatted a lot again, and after making an agreement with Flender to let Tang San go to Shrek Academy after graduation, the 2 parties parted ways. Yu Xiaogang quickly took Tang San back to Notting Junior Soul Master Academy. As soon as he returned to the academy, Yu Xiaogang didn't even bother to take care of Tang San, and only told him to train by himself according to the usual training intensity. Yu Xiaogang locked himself in the office and started working on the manuscript day and night. A week later, a theory about transcending the limits of soul rings was divided into 3 parts and sent to the 2 empires and Wuhan City respectively. At the same time, another theoretical draft with the same title also set out from Tiando City and rushed to these 3 places. A month later, Yu Xiaogang came to the collective office with excitement. Ignoring the isolation of other teachers, after selecting several major publications to which he had contributed, he went straight back to his office. After closing the door, Yu Xiaogang took a few deep breaths, calmed down a little, and stabilized his hands that were shaking slightly due to excitement. When he came to the table, the first thing he opened was the Journal of Wahandian Theory. This time, he did not read the articles published by others. Instead, he searched directly in the catalog and found what he wanted. Published theory title. Then it turned directly to the corresponding page. Although I wrote it myself, the feeling of reading it after it is published is completely different. It's like a champion appreciating his own achievements. No matter how many times he does it, he never gets tired of it. Just when he was in high spirits and ready to appreciate his masterpiece, suddenly, the triumphant expression on his face suddenly froze, and his eyes suddenly froze at the author under the title column. Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao, Ren Shui. Yu Xiaogang looked at these 3 names in disbelief as if he was struck by lightning. What's going on? How could it be them? Shouldn't it be me? Could it be? Did Wahandian deliberately change his works to look like theirs? Did they make a private deal? Or did that woman do it on purpose? Martial Spirit Hall. Bib Dong. Yu Xiaogang roared in a low voice. His face turned red and his breathing was as heavy as an ox. Don't you even give me this road. He originally thought that since he and Bib Dong parted ways, the 2 would no longer have anything to do with each other. With that woman's temperament, she would definitely not drive him away. But I didn't expect that she would do it so decisively. Even the theories he published must be usurped. Doesn't she think about Wahan Palace? Just to ban him, he actually did such a bad thing. How could Wahan Palace be so shameless? Boom. Martial Soul Hall is absolutely terrible. Yu Xiaogang punched the table with hatred, tore the journal in his hand into pieces, and cursed angrily, Bib Dong, I didn't expect you to be so ruthless and unjust. Looking at the shredded papers on the ground and venting the anger in his heart, Yu Xiaogang finally calmed down a little, and then picked up the Journal of Tiando Martial Soul Theory. HMPH. Yu Spirit Hall is not the only one in this continent. Can you still cover the sky with one hand? Yu Xiaogang also searched according to the catalog and then turned to the corresponding page. The next moment, Yu Xiaogang glared angrily, his eyes quickly became bloodshot, and he looked extremely ferocious, with green veins on his forehead. Shadow. Absolutely shady. They are plagiarizing. They are shameless thieves. Yu Xiaogang couldn't believe it. How dare they? By bribing Tiando and Wahandian, aren't they afraid of being reviled by everyone in the world if they find out? Etc. There are also journals from the Star Luo Empire. Yu Xiaogang looked at the last book. His fingers trembled and he didn't dare to open it for a moment. Fear spread in his heart. The other party is Yi Renxin. I have a lot of friends and a great reputation. He does have the energy to bribe the 2 empires and the Spirit Hall. Yu Xiaogang couldn't imagine that if the other party really bribed the Star Luo Empire, what chance would his theory have? Can we only wait for Xiao San to become a titled Douluo before clearing his name? With his heart beating like a drum, Yu Xiaogang took several deep breaths before mustering up the courage to open the Journal of the Star Luo Empire. But in the journal catalog of the Star Luo Empire, he found the same title, but 2 completely different pages. Duplicate publication. No way. How could such a big journal make such a mistake? Yu Xiaogang turned to the corresponding page, and this time, when he saw that all too familiar name, he cried with joy. This is his theory. The Star Luo Empire really had an iron-blooded style and was not interfered by some people. He read the entire article without changing a word, and even published his desperate efforts against Cheng Xiao's theory and exposure of Cheng Xiao's deception. For a time, Yu Xiaogang's favorable impression of the Star Luo Empire greatly increased. However, Yu Xiaogang was not happy for long. The final editor's comment made him look shocked. From a structural point of view, this theory is quite complete and makes some sense, but the editor thinks it is still biased. Finally, regarding Chang Xiao's accusations and criticisms, we don't know the true situation for the time being, so we will not comment. However, what is interesting is that the person the author is criticizing, Chang Xiao, also published research on the same topic at the same time. If you are interested, you can compare and see whose theory is more correct. Close black lens bracket. Same subject. How is it possible? He is obviously a thief. It must be plagiarism. It's plagiarism. Yu Xiaogang cursed. The content is exactly the same. Can't the editor see such simple plagiarism? Yu Xiaogang became furious and turned to the second page with the same title, and the corresponding authors were Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao and Ren Shui. This is obviously a. Yu Xiaogang's curse was stuck in his throat. He looked at the content of this manuscript in shock, but found that it was completely different from the theory he supported. No, I can't say it's completely different. This theory not only includes what he considers physical strength, but also includes other things. The limit of absorbing soul rings is related to the physical strength, martial soul quality and soul power. Soul power is a. In this theory, the connection between soul power and soul ring limits is proposed for the first time. Not only that, it also summarizes the previously published theory on the quality of martial souls into this theory. They simply planned it. The previous theory was completely a preparation for this one. In comparison, the space occupied by the so-called physical strength is really pitiful. It only uses a few well-known examples to provide some evidence and make a discussion. Even at the end, he said very plainly, I won't discuss the theory about the strength of the physical body here. I think everyone knows that many high-level soul master academies and large sects will use it to train and eat soul beasts. Meat and taking some elixirs to strengthen the body. Apparently all have some understanding of the concept of physical strength. This is simply piercing Yu Xiaogang's heart. What does everyone know? Obviously many people don't know. Yu Xiaogang's chest felt so tight that he almost fainted out of breath. In one sentence, his theory was almost labeled as fried rice. How could Yu Xiaogang accept this? Continuing to look down, the text discussing physical strength only occupies a small part, and the larger space is devoted to the quality and soul power of the martial spirit. This article is more complete than the last one. It uses a large number of examples to prove the relationship between the quality of martial souls and the soul rings with matching attributes. It emphasizes that the quality of martial souls improves the limit of soul rings, and the attributes of soul rings enhance the quality of martial souls. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Yu Xiaogang's mind buzzed. This discussion was more detailed than the previous one, and there was almost no room for refutation. If this is the case, doesn't it mean that his Luo Sanpao, if he chooses soul rings with matching attributes for the first two soul rings, it is possible to break through to level 30? Can it even allow Luo Sanpao to evolve? There is also Xiao San. His first three soul rings all took the path of alienation, allowing blue-silver grass to acquire various attributes that blue-silver grass does not have, which is completely opposite to evolution. This discussion not only said that he, Yu Xiaogang, had done wrong in the past, but also emphasized that he was an incompetent teacher. Even the disciples have been taught wrongly. No way, I can't be wrong. I have studied theory for so many years, how could I make a mistake? Yu Xiaogang was so excited that his hands were shaking. What martial soul quality and soul power are all nonsense. How could he, a soul master who can't even break through level 20, know about soul power? Where did he learn about it? Nonsense, it's all nonsense. Although the discussion on martial soul quality is quite lengthy, most of it refers to the previous theory. But the explanation of soul power is the biggest part. Open black lens bracket, all the soul rings contain the remnant souls of the soul beasts. During the process of use, the remaining soul will be gradually destroyed, thereby increasing the soul power of the soul master. The remnants of soul beasts that are less than 10,000 years old are very weak, so they cannot form soul shocks. In the first four rings, the remnant soul gradually enhances the soul master's soul power, which lays a solid foundation for the soul power. But if the soul beast exceeds 10,000 years, there will be soul shock. If there are 4 soul rings as the basis, absorbing the 10,000-year soul ring will be a matter of course at level 50. The soul shock basically poses no threat and the soul master cannot even feel it. But if it is the fourth ring, it absorbs the 10,000-year soul ring, and the soul power is not fully strengthened by the remnant soul of the first four rings. When it is subjected to strong soul shock, it can range from dementia and stupidity to death. Therefore, you must have enough soul power to absorb beyond the limit. The author believes that the easiest way to break through the limit is the first two links, and it becomes more difficult as you go to the back. It only takes more than 200 years for the second soul ring to absorb a 1,000-year soul ring, but it takes a full 5,000 years for the fourth soul ring to absorb a 10,000-year soul ring. As you can imagine, the difficulty is not the same. Especially in the second ring, there is no need to worry about soul shock. But this does not mean that it is easy to absorb the second ring beyond the limit. It also has extremely high requirements for the quality of the martial soul, the strength of the physical body and the power of the soul. All three must be far superior to the soul masters of the same level in order to achieve it. Close black lens bracket. Soul shock. Why am I not clear at all? Yu Xiaogang covered his dizzy head with a painful expression. Why didn't even Flanders and Erlong tell me? At the end, Yu Xiaogang's confidence was shattered because these all involved areas he didn't know about. He had never heard anyone mention the so-called soul shock, not only Flanders and Lu Erlong. Even his father, Yu Yuanjun, was never mentioned. How could he argue in an unfamiliar field? He is only level 19, how could he possibly know about soul shock? According to what he said, the fifth ring absorbs 10,000 years of soul ring, and he doesn't feel it at all. If he doesn't absorb the 10,000-year soul ring in the first four rings, he won't know about soul shock at all. Quote, I made it up, I definitely made it up. Although Yu Xiaogang was cursing angrily, his eyes could not help but keep watching. Just like a hater, although he hates someone the most, he is also the one who pays the most attention to him. But the next moment, Yu Xiaogang's vision went dark, and his mind suddenly exploded. Because at the end of the demonstration stage, Cheng Xiao's name was among the many examples. Not only is his first soul ring worth 500 years, but his second soul ring is even worth 1,000 years. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. It doesn't matter what he wants. He has squeezed all his potential. How can he break through level 20 and become a great soul master? Fake, fake, it's all fake. The same words kept repeating over and over in his mind. The impact of these two theories on him was not even as severe as the impact of Cheng Xiao's breakthrough to level 20. He had already concluded that Cheng Xiao would only be at level 19 in his lifetime, but now he has successfully broken through to the Great Soul Master level, and his second soul ring is still a 1,000-year soul ring. This had a huge impact on him. That kid is obviously only at the first level of innate talent. Or a mutated martial spirit. I am the young master of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family. I have enjoyed so many treasures of heaven and earth to strengthen my body since I was a child. However, it is still very difficult to break through level 19. I failed to break through level 30 before the age of 20, and I will be stuck at 20 for life. Level 9. That boy, who had nothing but overstretched his own potential, was able to break through level 20 at the age of 11. The 1,000-year-old second soul ring strengthened him enough to allow him to directly become a 20-level Great Soul Master after his breakthrough. It took him 9 years to cultivate to level 30 and become a Soul Master. By then, his future will be smooth. If only I could have accepted him as my disciple. Cheng Xiao, who was originally a waste, is more suitable to clear his name than Tang San, who was born with twin martial arts. Deep regret welled up in my heart. At the beginning, he directly sentenced him to death because he only had first-level innate soul power. He was not accepted as a disciple. Puff. It was hard to suppress the depression. These years of depression, coupled with this strong stimulation, directly made Yu Xiaogang, who was already depressed, spit out a mouthful of blood. With a bang, he fell to the ground and fainted. After a long time, there was a knock on the door. Tang San pushed the door open and walked in, only to see the mess all over the ground, and his teacher Yu Xiaogang was lying on the ground with blood in his mouth. Teacher. Tang San turned pale with shock, and hurriedly ran over, helped Yu Xiaogang up, and poured the inner strength of Xuantian Kung into him to warm him up. Cheng Xiao, Cheng Xiao. Yu Xiaogang's voice was as thin as a mosquito's moan. Teacher, I am Xiao San, not Cheng Xiao. Tang San didn't know why the teacher would mention that guy who had disappeared for more than half a year. Yu Xiaogang struggled to open his eyes, and Tang San's figure came into view. Mistress. Yu Xiaogang looked dazed, as if he had lost his soul. He once thought that Xiao San was his most proud disciple. But now, he is not satisfied no matter how he looks at it. He often goes out to play with Xiao Wu, he is not attentive in training, his twin martial arts are progressing so slowly, and the first 3 soul rings are not the most suitable. Teacher. Yu Xiaogang was startled, and suddenly cold sweat broke out on his back. How could he have such an idea? No, no. Xiao San is his most satisfied disciple, bar none. Cheng Xiao, he is a coincidence. Yes, it's definitely a coincidence. Only the mistress is the best. I'm fine. Ahem, mistress, help me up. Yu Xiaogang was helped up by Tang San. Xiao San, do you believe the teacher? Yu Xiaogang patted Tang San's shoulder with a complicated expression. Believe it. Tang San nodded firmly. Very good. You are now a soul lord. I will change your training plan and make you become a titled Douluo as soon as possible. I believe the teacher can definitely do it. Yu Xiaogang's hand on Tang San's shoulder was slightly firm. Tang San bared his teeth, looked up, and found that the teacher was looking out the window, his eyes full of inexplicable meaning, as if he was looking at someone. Teacher, what's wrong? Tang San followed his line of sight and looked out the window, his brows furrowed. Could it be that there was some old friend of the teacher in that direction? Wahan City, Pope's Palace. In front of Bib Dong, 2 theories by Cheng Xiao were placed. This kind of thing should not have reached Bib Dong. As the Pope, there are countless events that need to be dealt with every day, and it is impossible for the Pope to handle everything personally. This was the case when Cheng Xiao's first theory was published. The people below published it directly without reporting it to the public at all. But when the second article was published, the reviewers couldn't sit still. Because this is equivalent to a visible and tangible path in front of you, it depends on whether you are willing to try it. No one can refuse the temptation to absorb soul rings beyond the limit. Especially this theory may make the 3 most outstanding young people in Wahan Palace even more powerful. But it is not up to them to decide whether to implement this theory on the 3 of them. Only the Pope can decide how to train these 3 people. Therefore, these 2 theories went through layers of screening and arrived at Bib Dong's desk. Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao, Ren Shui. Bib Dong's eyes narrowed slightly, Chien Runway. Bib Dong connected this name with Chien Runway almost immediately. After all, they are so similar. Did she research it? No, not possible. The plans of the Tiando Empire were enough to annoy her, and it was impossible for her to still have the energy to study theories. Then, it should be Yi Renxin. Looking through the information, Bib Dong keenly captured a piece of information. Shui Qinghe once praised Cheng Xiao's contribution to theory in public. This was not normal. She originally thought that Chien Runshui's inclusion in these 2 theories was the result of Chien Runshui's win over Yi Renxin. But now Bib Dong doesn't think so. She understands Chien Runshui's temperament very well and never does anything in vain. In other words, these 2 theories, in fact, the person named Cheng Xiao, made a greater contribution. Bib Dong quickly figured out everything. Yi Renxin provides the name, Cheng Xiao does the things, and she provides the resources. This kind of thing is not an isolated case. Bib Dong originally wanted to push Yu Xiaogang to become famous, so he naturally knows the ropes very well. After figuring out the relationship between the 3 of them, Bib Dong skipped countless irrelevant information, browsed quickly, and soon read the text of the 2 theories. After reading it completely, Bib Dong's expression became slightly solemn. Martial spirit evolution, and martial soul alienation, the ultimate martial spirit, absorbing soul rings beyond the limit. These theoretical discussions are extremely complete and are by no means just random thoughts. And this Cheng Xiao really succeeded. The second soul ring of 1,000 years. The martial spirit evolved from the registered black pupil to a shadow. Bib Dong's first thought was that this theoretical framework would overturn most of Yu Xiaogang's 10 core competitivenesses of Wahan. I don't know if he can accept it. Bib Dong looked dazed. She understood the arrogance in Yu Xiaogang's heart. This kind of thing would probably cause a serious blow to him. However, this is not a bad thing. This theory at least shows that Luo Sanpao still has a chance. If only he could. But in the blink of an eye, Bib Dong smiled bitterly. It was impossible for the two of them to meet again, so why bother thinking about it so much? All she needs to consider now is Wahan Palace and those 3 children. Taking a deep breath and shaking off the unwanted thoughts from her mind, Bib Dong looked cold and regained her papal aura. Slender fingers tapped lightly on the table, making a rhythmic sound. Yugon, ghost, bring this Chang Xiao back, I want to see him. Bib Dong gave the order. She wanted to know the more detailed process in order to make the 3 most outstanding people in Wahan Hall stronger. Ju Douluo and Ghost Douluo held their chests and saluted. Yes, His Majesty the Pope. Chang Xiao's eyes were rising and falling in the eyes of Bingwo Liangyi. He closed his eyes tightly, and the soul power in his body moved according to Tai Chi. At the same time, he would release the Dragon Emperor's martial spirit every once in a while, trying to awaken the 2 eyes in Bingwo Liangyi's eyes. Big Dragon Soul. After taking the 2 immortal grasses of ice and fire, he was almost at home in the eyes of ice and fire, and was completely unafraid of the terrifying heat and cold. But since he started practicing here, for nearly half a year, he has never been able to awaken the 2 dragon souls, as if the scene at the beginning was just an illusion. Chang Xiao was not discouraged, and he came here to practice every day after school in Yuexuan. He knew very well how difficult it was to awaken the dragon soul. After Kiluo Tulip became a 100,000-year soul beast, it took her 10,000 years to reunite the remaining souls scattered in the ice and fire eyes, awaken the 2 dragon souls, and protect the ice and fire eyes. This shows how difficult it is. Therefore, Chang Xiao doesn't insist on it. It's better if he can be awakened, and it doesn't matter if he can't be awakened. For him, the ice and fire eyes can be regarded as the best training place. The ice and fire eyes are filled with the rich aura of the 2 dragon kings, which can continuously temper his body. In the past half-year, the possession time of Chang Xiao's Wahan has doubled, and it will soon be enough to catch up with the bonus that Yi Lingling can give him. On this day, Chang Xiao practiced under the eyes of ice and fire as usual. When Dragon Emperor released his martial spirit at a certain time, suddenly, there seemed to be a feeling in his heart, as if there were 2 dragon roars resounding. The roar of the dragon seemed far away, but I didn't know where it came from. Chang Xiao was suddenly shocked. It was the dragon soul. Chang Xiao maintained the state of being possessed by the martial spirit and released the destructive aura from his body. The black-red flame seemed to need no air and actually began to burn in the eyes of Bingwo Liangyi. The terrifying aura of destruction continues to surge in the spring. The 2 completely different powers of ice and fire seemed to have been stimulated by some kind of stimulation. They were originally opposed to each other, but at this time, under the impact of the destructive aura, they unanimously faced the outside world, continuously shaking out waves of water and hitting Chang Xiao. And amid this resistance, the faint dragon's roar began to gradually intensify, and filled with some kind of anger, it resounded loudly. Roar. The dragon's roar was finally no longer an illusory feeling, but actually vibrating in the valley. At this time, Chang Xiao was almost reaching the limit, and 10 minutes were running out. He gritted his teeth and wanted to hold on longer. If he failed this time, he didn't know when he would have to wait until the next time he wanted to achieve a certain resonance with these 2 dragon souls. While Chang Xiao persisted, he didn't notice that among the clothes on the shore, the mysterious 9-ring defensive soul guide obtained from the auction began to heat up, and the temperature gradually increased, and then began to emit a weak sound, bright light. Roar. The dragon's roar sounded again, more clearly and audible than before. Buzz. The 9 rings shook suddenly, as if they were being pulled by some kind of force, and flew out directly, falling into the eyes of the ice and fire Liangyi. What is surprising is that the 2 eyes of ice and fire, which used to be obliterated whenever anything fell into the water, actually did not cause any harm to the object. The 9 rings began to rotate crazily, and as the 9 rings rubbed together, a dragon roar was also emitted, which was mixed with the sound of the dragon soul. The 3 dragon chants have different tones, but the intimidation they possess is almost equal. Chang Xiao finally couldn't hold on anymore and released the state of possession by Wahan. But the dragon's roar did not disappear. Instead, it became louder and louder. The dragon's roar was like ocean waves, rising higher and higher. Chang Xiao looked at the 9 rings suspended on the top of the water waves in astonishment, not knowing what was happening. He had studied this thing all night before, but he still couldn't figure out its mystery, but now, this happened inexplicably, leaving him scratching his head. The nine ring was still rotating, the dragon's roar continued, and the light emitted from it became more and more intense. The dragon roars of the two dragon souls also came and went, as if they were responding to each other. It continued like this for a long time. Suddenly, the ring suddenly stopped, the three dragon roars suddenly stopped, and the surging ice and fire eyes also calmed down at this moment. But under this calmness, it seems that there is some kind of more violent power. The valley was so quiet that Cheng Xiao seemed to be able to hear his own heartbeat. Dong dong, dong dong, dong dong. Cheng Xiao felt something in his heart and his eyes narrowed slightly. Suddenly, two dragons roared at the bottom of the spring. The next moment, the ice and fire eyes suddenly exploded. The terrifying power almost knocked Cheng Xiao out. The waves surged and swept Cheng Xiao under the water. When Cheng Xiao fought against the waves and tried to surface, he suddenly saw two dragon-shaped shadows coming from the bottom of the water and breaking through the water. Dragon Soul. This dragon soul actually condensed and awakened. Cheng Xiao quickly emerged from the water and looked towards the sky, where two dragon souls were flying around the nine ring. Kakaka. At this time, the nine rings were not spinning like crazy like before, making dragon roars from friction, but seemed to be rusty. When adjusted bit by bit, the sound they made was just the clicking sound of ordinary metal. Buzz. At a certain moment, the nine rings seemed to be adjusted optimally, and the patterns on the nine rings were almost perfectly linked together. The lines glowed golden and squirmed on them as if they were alive. Immediately afterwards, the light of the lines reached its limit, broke away from the nine rings, suspended in the air, entangled with each other, and finally turned into a picture. What's this? The lines were very complicated. Before Cheng Xiao had time to look at it, the picture suddenly shrank and condensed into a golden dot, which shot straight towards Cheng Xiao. Before Cheng Xiao could react, it rushed into the center of Cheng Xiao's eyebrows. The moment the golden light rushed into his mind, Cheng Xiao felt dizzy for a while, and complicated information poured into his mind. It took a long time for Cheng Xiao to gradually digest this inexplicable extra memory. This is a sea map. Cheng Xiao blinked, and in his mind, there was actually a map. The only difference was that a large area was dark blue, with only some small dots dotting it. A red line shuttled through the dark blue area, and finally arrived at in a yellow area. There is a golden dot. Where is this? Cheng Xiao frowned. He pondered for a long time without any clue. Suddenly he looked up and saw two dragon souls still flying around the nine rings. The dragon souls exuded a dragon power and were constantly being absorbed by the rings. Is this thing charging? When Cheng Xiao saw this, the corner of his mouth twitched. He suddenly thought of a certain soul guide called Milk Bottle that would be created 10,000 years later. I don't know what the highest state it can be charged to. I was able to withstand a blow from the Soul Emperor before, but I don't know if it will be higher. Seeing that he had no intention of stopping for a long time, Cheng Xiao could only think about the sea map. Where does this point? It shouldn't be Poseidon Island, right? Probably not. The yellow area is so big that it almost covers a continent. Etc. Mainland. Cheng Xiao suddenly thought that besides Douluo continent, there were still several continents overseas. 10,000 years later, the Sun-Moon continent and the Douluo continent merged. The Sun-Moon Empire later unified the continent, burying the Sky Soul Empire and the Douling Empire. The remnants of the Tiando Empire wandered overseas and discovered a continent, which they immigrated to become the Tiando continent. However, before the Star Luo Empire was destroyed, they discovered another unowned continent and quietly moved to avoid being destroyed. Destiny, and called the ownerless continent Star Luo continent. At this point in time, Sun-Moon continent, Tiando continent, and Star Luo continent are all possible. But Cheng Xiao raised his head and glanced at the ring that was absorbing the power of the dragon soul. Something to do with dragons. Cheng Xiao's heart skipped a beat. It couldn't be Longu, right? His heart beat faster, and Cheng Xiao's breathing was a little heavy for a while. You know, there are the bones, dragon souls and soul bones of the mountain dragon king lying in the Dragon Valley. In addition, there are countless dragon skeletons, large and small. Although only the mountain dragon king can compare with the two dragon kings in the eyes of Bingwo Liangyi. But other dragons were not weak during their lifetimes. What is his martial spirit? The Shadow King who can summon the souls of the dead. Originally, he had planned to summon the 2 Dragon Kings of Ice and Fire when he was strong enough to become his shadow army. This is a god-level combat power comparable to a first-level god. He never intended to let it go. Now there is another sea map that looks like the Dragon Valley. If you can enter the Dragon Valley and call all the dragons as your shadow soldiers. With 3 Dragon Kings who are comparable to first-level gods, and a shadow army composed of countless dragons, he will have a terrifying power that can make the entire god realm tremble. In addition, there is the core of the dragon god lying inside. If he can get that core, his physique will soar to a level that can withstand the destruction of the king. There is no need to practice in the ice and fire eyes every day and use this slow speed to strengthen his physical fitness. Hiss. Just thinking about it slightly, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but feel numb from head to toe. It's really too scary. If the gods in the sky find out about it, I'm afraid I will be the first to die. I shook my head and threw these thoughts out of my mind. At this time, it was too unrealistic to think about such distant things. Not to mention that his strength has not yet reached the level where he can take the Dragon King under his command. Just talking about the sea map does not necessarily point to the Star Luo continent. For the time being, it is better to take care of the present, rely on the dragon soul to polish the body, and gradually let the Dragon Emperor possess the body for a longer period of time. Buzz. Suddenly, the 9 rings in the sky seemed to be filled with a vibration, and upon seeing this, the 2 dragon souls dived into the bottom of the spring again. When the 2 dragon souls drilled into the bottom of the spring, the energy in the eyes of the ice and fire Liangyi became more intense. A gust of wind blew in the valley, swirling around the spring. The fairy grass swayed in the wind and rustled, as if cheering. The awakening of the dragon soul will greatly promote the energy of the ice and fire eyes, and with the blessing of the dragon soul, the surrounding fairy grass will grow faster than before. The 9 rings fell and Cheng Xiao caught them steadily. Cheng Xiao rubbed his fingers on the ring. Compared with before, the rough texture on the surface had disappeared, leaving only the smooth ring. Roar. Cheng Xiao moved his fingers, and the ring made a loud dragon roar when it was rubbed. The spring water began to boil, and the response of the 2 dragon souls came from the bottom of the spring. A light curtain emitted from the ring and enveloped Cheng Xiao. The solidity of the light curtain was far greater than before, the aura was thick, and it seemed to be indestructible. Hiss. This intensity. Chapter 91. Tiando City, Wahan Palace. Both Platinum Bishop Harris and Bishop Ji Mo were on standby at this moment, because they were facing big figures from Wahan City and elders of Wahan Palace, titled Douluo Yugan and Gui Mei. Of course, none of them dared to call him by his name. They all saluted respectfully and said, "I have met your majesty." Ghost Douluo was not a talkative person. He didn't even want to appear in front of everyone. He nodded and disappeared into the darkness in the corner like a shadow. Ju Douluo's charming voice sounded, "No need to be polite." Yes. The 2 stood up, and Harris asked respectfully, "I wonder what the reason for me coming down here is." "On the order of the Pope, I am bringing a person back for an audience." Ju Douluo said calmly. "I wonder who wants to help the 2 elders." Ji Mo asked cautiously, but suddenly felt something was wrong, so he hurriedly explained, "If this person's identity is simple, maybe the elders don't need to take action, we can help the elders complete it." Ju Douluo waved his hand and chuckled. "He is not an important person to begin with. He is a person named Cheng Xiao." "Ah, Holy Sun, why do you need to mobilize so many troops to find him?" Ji Mo was stunned. Ju Douluo was confused. "What Holy Sun? Isn't Cheng Xiao the Holy Son of Wahan Palace?" Ji Mo was also confused. After explaining the whole thing from beginning to end, Ju Douluo's angry tone suddenly changed. "You idiots! You don't even know that you are being fooled. Where did the Holy Son of Wahan Palace come from? I, an elder, do not know at all. Juliana is the only one in Wahan Hall who is the most qualified to become a saint." But even though she was the most popular, His Majesty the Pope still did not relent. Now, an inexplicable, fake Holy Son has appeared in Wahan Palace, and it is said that he has a nose and eyes. That's outrageous. Ji Mo smiled bitterly. At that time, he showed up with the enshrining order, and Wahan City asked them to shelve the case of the suspected degenerate. The rumors became more and more mysterious. Ji Mo hid himself from the middle. He didn't dare to say that he was the one who confirmed this rumor. HMPH. Douluo snorted coldly, with a serious expression on his face. Bring him here. I want to see how courageous he is. Even the holy son of Wahan Palace dares to pretend. Yes, I'll do it right away. Ji Mo was sweating and was about to turn around and go out, but suddenly stopped and said with a smile, you may still need to go in person. Ji Mo quickly explained. The child is now under the protection of Douluo and Yi Renshin. We are afraid. Douluo. Douluo's charming eyes narrowed, and then a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. This is an old friend. The two have been at odds with each other since they were young and have been fighting each other for decades. It can be said that they are very familiar with each other. With that old poison here, I'm afraid this will be troublesome. The old poisonous creature was naturally incompatible with him. If he wanted to take away the child, the old poisonous creature would definitely not agree, and there would be no need for a fight. After pondering for a moment, Douluo raised his head, looked at Ji Mo and ordered, please order a group of people to follow us. If it were just Douluo, he could deal with it alone. His martial soul is the strange velvet Tongtianju. In its true form, the martial soul is indestructible. Douluo's toxins hardly pose any threat to him. Therefore, every time the two fought against each other, Douluo ended up losing. But things are different now. With Yi Renshin at his side, it is difficult for Douluo to get hurt and he can fight with him for a long time. If he wants to end the battle quickly, he must cooperate with the old ghost. To prevent the kid from slipping away, a team of people had to be put in to stop him. Yes. Prince's mansion. Shui Qinghe is lowering his head to deal with the government affairs. Emperor Shui Yi is already old and his energy is not as strong as before. Therefore, many political affairs have been transferred to Shui Qinghe's hands. Only some important events will be handled personally. Shui Qinghe took the opportunity to plant many cronies, gradually eating away at the lifeline of the entire empire. If he was given a few more years, he would be able to take complete control of this huge and decadent empire. Then complete the plan to steal the Tiando Empire. Suddenly, he paused while writing, and at the same time, a figure appeared in the empty space in front of him. It was Douluo the porpoise, stabbing blood. Young master. Shi Shui leaned over and saluted. What's the matter? Shui Qinghe raised his head and asked. Yu Guan and Gui Mei are here, stabbing blood said. He and Shi Long were ordered to protect Chien Runway's safety, but at the same time they were also ordered by Chien Runway to monitor the movements of the entire Tiando city to avoid any accidents that would cause the plan to fail. When two titled Douluo entered Tiando city, it was impossible not to attract their attention. What did they two come here for? Chien Runway put down her pen and frowned slightly. He was a little unhappy with these two people. Although the two of them are also elders of the Wahan Hall, they are surrounded by that woman and are not of the same mind as the enshrinement hall. They led a group of people out of the city and seemed to be heading to the Sunset Forest. Thornblood replied. Sunset Forest, Sunset Forest. Shui Qinghe chewed the word in his mouth, and his thoughts kept spinning in his mind. Suddenly, Shui Qinghe's expression changed and he stood up suddenly. Over the past few months, he has become very familiar with Cheng Xiao's daily activities. This time period should be the time when the boy came back from Sunset Forest. Are they going for Cheng Xiao? Recalling what Cheng Xiao has done recently, the second theory has been published. This time, he is no longer needed to fuel the fire. Although the entire theoretical world is still calm, under that calm, a storm has begun to brew. Everyone has become extremely interested in absorbing soul rings beyond the limit, and it is impossible for Wahan Palace to remain indifferent. Especially when that woman is raising those three so-called golden generations. That woman will never miss the opportunity to enhance their strength. Woman, steal someone from me. Shui Qinghe was secretly angry. The matter of Cheng Xiao's twin martial souls has not been exposed yet. If he is allowed to go to Wuhan City, this matter may not be hidden. By the time, she was obviously the one who took her fancy first, so why did that woman get there first? No, we can't let them take people away. Quick, call Uncle Shi, hurry up. We're leaving the city right now. Shui Qinghe's expression changed slightly and he said quickly. As soon as he finished speaking, a golden light shot out from between his eyebrows and enveloped his body. Under this golden light, a handsome man turned into a stunningly beautiful woman. Yes, young master. Not long after, Snake Spear Douluo hurried back. Under the cover of night, the three of them quietly sneaked out of the house, and then rushed towards the sunset forest outside the city at an extremely fast speed. Douluo's face has not looked good these days. No other reason. He felt that he had suffered a huge loss. Cheng Xiao's latest theory is just to make his 1,000-year-old second soul ring more reasonable. Therefore, among the many cases, he has been added to it. With the theoretical foundation, it makes him appear less obtrusive and dazzling. But Yi Renxin cannot escape theoretical publication. After all, someone else's name is on it. Therefore, before the theory was published, he confessed to Yi Renxin about his twin martial souls and informed Yi Renxin about his second soul ring. What he showed before Douluo and Yi Renxin was the Dragon Emperor's martial spirit without any attached spirit ring. In this theoretical manuscript, it is written that he already has 2 soul rings. Before the theory is published, Yi Renxin cannot be concealed. Similarly, after the theory was published, Douluo could not be kept secret. It's better to confess it early and see how the two of them react. After getting along for such a long time, Cheng Xiao had more or less figured out the temperaments of the 2 old men. Therefore, he had put down most of his vigilance and believed that the 2 old men would not have any ill intentions towards him. Yi Renxin looked complicated after hearing this, but he did not blame Cheng Xiao. For Yi Renxin, Cheng Xiao gave him too many surprises, including this one. It's a pity that this kid is too outstanding. I'm afraid he will have more right and wrong in the future. His original thoughts may be a bit unreliable. After Yi Renxin sought Cheng Xiao's opinion, she told Douluo about the matter. After learning about it, Douluo remained calm on the surface, but when he returned home and closed the door, he cursed loudly and cried out that he regretted it. If he had been tougher back then, this kid would have become his disciple. Twin martial souls, the second soul ring in 1,000 years, self-created soul skills. The second martial spirit is still a top dragon species, even better than the blue electric Tyrannosaurus. Just a little bit closer. As long as he didn't give him 2 choices and insisted on accepting him as his disciple, he would have become his disciple. But now, because of a little reserve, we have lost such a talented disciple. The feeling of, the cooked duck flew away and landed on Lao Yi's plate, came to mind again, stronger than before. How could he not feel heartbroken? It's hard to breathe. This was even harder to accept than losing to that rotten chrysanthemum. Douluo was in a terrible mood. Therefore, even these days, Cheng Xiao has not been given a good look. Cheng Xiao knew this very well and did not dare to touch his bad luck, for fear that he would slap her on the back of the head unexpectedly. Grandpa Douluo, these days I am studying how to completely solve the problem of toxin accumulation in your body, and strive to solve it once and for all. In order to make Douluo feel better, Cheng Xiaojun picked up some nice things to say on the way back from Bingwo Liangyan. Unfortunately, it still failed to make Douluo feel better. As a last resort, Cheng Xiao rolled his eyes and planned to give he sweetened it so that those who followed him would not be frightened. Douluo's pulled face finally had a hint of life. He twitched the corner of his mouth, but he snorted, "Huh. Don't think of ridiculous things to coax me, I won't accept your tricks." Oh, Cheng Xiao remained silent. Seeing that he had nothing to say, the corners of Douluo's eyes twitched. He was silent for a long time, but he still couldn't help the curiosity in his heart. He stiffened his cheeks and cleared his throat. Ahem, what are you talking about? How sure are you? Hearing this, Cheng Xiao smiled. Hey, I really thought I couldn't control you with this trick. Well, I can't say, I'm not sure. Cheng Xiao shook his head. Douluo's face fell again. Cheng Xiao drew out the last word, paused again, and deliberately hung up until Douluo's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot, then he said slowly, about 80%. Douluo's expression was like the summer weather, changing at a moment's notice. He suddenly became happy and quickly grabbed Cheng Xiao's shoulders. Are you telling the truth? Of course it is. Okay. Douluo was overjoyed, but the next moment, the corner of his mouth froze and he glared at him angrily. You brat, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Hey, isn't it because you were in a bad mood? Wait. Suddenly, Dugu Bo quickly grabbed Cheng Xiao and looked into the depths of the forest with a solemn expression. His soul power surged, and traces of poisonous mist rose from his body. Cheng Xiao stopped talking and stopped quickly. Seeing Dugu Bo's appearance, he didn't know that something was going to happen. Human, or a soul beast. Seeing that the situation was not good, Cheng Xiao frowned and retreated behind Dugu Bo. Human. Dugu Bo's voice was cold and concise. I will tell you to run later, so just run, don't hesitate, do you hear me? Yeah, Cheng Xiao nodded like a fool. He was not a fool. Dugu Bo was so prepared. The opponent was definitely not something he could handle. If he didn't run away, would he be waiting to die? Juhuaguan, stop hiding. I can smell the smell of rotten chrysanthemums all over your body from a distance. Dugu Bo raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and his sarcastic voice echoed through the forest. Juhuaguan, Ju Douluo Yuguan, why is he here? Could it be that he came to fight with his old enemy Dugu Bo? Cheng Xiao rolled his eyes. There was a slight silence in the forest. Old Poison, you're not dead yet. A moment later, a charming and feminine voice came from the forest. If Dugu Bo hadn't already identified the other party, Cheng Xiao would never have thought that the other party was a man. Snort. Dugu Bo snorted coldly and released his martial spirit. A huge green python suddenly appeared and swam around Dugu Bo. His soul power boiled. Dugu Bo's body floated up, and the poisonous mist quickly withered the surrounding trees. Run! Dugu Bo shouted, and Cheng Xiao rushed out without hesitation. At the same time, Dugu Bo also shot towards a certain direction in the forest. The poisonous mist went first, and the trees along the way rotted and collapsed in an instant. Ha ha ha, old poisoner, let me try and see if you have made any progress in the past 2 years. A person who looked like a woman flew out, and a black soul ring lit up at his feet. A huge chrysanthemum with velvet petals in front of him shot out countless rays of light, one after another toward Dugu Bo. HMPH. Dugu Bo's eyes were filled with coldness, and he also used his sixth soul skill. The poisonous mist rolled in and engulfed the golden thread. Boom! Two titled Douluo fought in the sky, and the aftermath knocked Cheng Xiao staggering. After staggering a few steps and finally regaining his balance, Cheng Xiao rushed forward without even looking back. However, before he ran very far, Cheng Xiao's expression changed and he stopped. He saw silhouettes of people appearing in the darkness in front of him. In the blink of an eye, Cheng Xiao's path was blocked. Cheng Xiao, the Pope invites you to appear before me. The leader released his martial soul, and the 6 soul rings rhythmed slowly, revealing his powerful aura. The rest of the people all released their martial souls, including Soul Lord, Soul Sect, and Soul King. Cheng Xiao's lips twitched. He was a great soul master. There was no need to mobilize so many troops, right? Please. The leader acted respectfully and raised his hand to signal, but the others vaguely surrounded Cheng Xiao with a strong sense of coercion. Haha, this doesn't look like an invitation. Cheng smiled softly. The leader shrugged, saying whatever you want. Old Poison, are you crazy? You can even kill your own people. Ju Douluo Yugon's shocked voice came from the sky. Everyone was startled and looked up, only to be horrified by the scene in the sky. I saw billowing poisonous mist falling from the sky, covering everyone below. Even Cheng Xiao was not immune. This is poison Douluo's poison. Back off, back off. The leader shouted in shock and anger. However, it was too late at this time, and the poisonous mist swept everyone in. Ah 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 ah. The wails came one after another, as if they could penetrate the forest. In the sky, Ju Douluo was no longer interested in fighting Dugu Bo. He forced him back with one blow, and then stared down with a solemn expression. That was the jade phosphorus snake venom used by Dugu Bo when he used his martial soul true form. The lives of these people who are not as powerful as the Soul Emperor may not be saved. More importantly, Cheng Xiao is the person the Pope wants to see. He only has the realm of a great soul master, so it is impossible for him to escape such poison. Dugu Bo is this madman. Old Poison, have you practiced poisoning until your brain is damaged? You can even kill your own people. Ju Douluo was furious. You know nothing. Dugu Bo laughed loudly, and before he finished speaking, he pressed forward again. The two fought together again. Below, the poisonous mist dissipated, and everyone was lying on the ground. Most of them were already dead. Only a few strong people could still breathe their last breath, but seeing more air coming out and less air coming in, if they didn't hurry up, even if you take the antidote, you may not be able to save your life. There was only one person, standing among a group of dead bodies as if he was not hurt at all. In the peripheral vision, that figure broke into sight, and Douluo was surprised. How come that boy wasn't poisoned? Before he could think about it, Douluo released his 7th soul skill. The 7th soul skill, Jade Phosphorus Snake King. In an instant, Douluo transformed into a 30-meter-long turquoise snake as thick as a water tank, and twisted towards Douluo. The giant snake spit poisonous mist from its mouth, destroying everything in its path. Douluo's heart trembled, and he quickly used his martial spirit avatar to transform into a huge chrysanthemum with velvet petals. Wonderful velvet blooming chrysanthemum. The extremely poisonous jade phosphorus snake venom had minimal impact on chrysanthemum Douluo. The snake and the flower kept colliding with each other, making loud noises. In the battle above the sky, it is difficult to determine the winner for a while. And below, Cheng Xiao stood in the middle of many corpses, but he was not hurt at all. Douluo's poison was highly toxic to other people, but it was of no use to him after taking the Yushang Qiluo Immortal. Cheng Xiao breathed a sigh of relief, walked around the body, and prepared to leave quickly. Suddenly, an alarm bell rang in Cheng Xiao's heart, and a burst of cold air came up from the soles of his feet. For some reason, a cold premonition emerged in his heart. Almost instinctively, Cheng's little finger touched the 9 ring on his waist, and with a sudden touch, the ring rotated and the dragon's roar vibrated in the forest. Boom! The light mask enveloped Cheng Xiao, and a ghostly figure that suddenly appeared behind Cheng Xiao was suddenly bounced away by the light mask. Only then did Cheng Xiao realize the existence of the ghost, and a name came to mind. Ghost Douluo, Ghost. In an instant, Cheng Xiao felt like his scalp was going to explode. Under the strong sense of crisis, Cheng Xiao had no idea of hiding his strength. At this time, he only had one thought: stop him. Then, run. Shadow Realm unleashed. Under the perception of the Shadow Realm, the ghostly figure has no way to hide. Come out. Dozens of shadow soul beasts crawled out from the shadows, crawling towards the world like evil ghosts from hell. Pile it on it. But Cheng Xiao knew that it was useless. 1,000-year-old soul beasts were like ants in front of titled Douluo. At most, it can block its momentary time. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, corpses strewn on the ground appeared. In a panic, Cheng Xiao was like a fish out of water. All methods were added together. No matter whether they were useful or not, stop them all. Pile it on for me. Stop him for one breath, and you can run for one more breath. Cheng Xiao's pupils shrank suddenly and he roared, stand up. In midair, the ghostly figure that was ejected was like a shadow, erratic in the air. If you look carefully, its figure seems a bit illusory, as if it is in a space sandwich. The ghost looked at the golden light shield around Cheng Xiao in surprise. The energy on it could actually bounce him away. Even if he didn't use soul skills, he was still a titled Douluo, and ordinary people couldn't defeat him. While the ghost was still wondering about the golden light shield on Cheng Xiao, suddenly, Cheng Xiao roared in panic. Stand up. Along with Cheng Xiao's roar, several shadows stood up from the corpses of Soul Lord who had been poisoned by Douluo. But something unexpected happened. What Cheng Xiao didn't expect was that the erratic ghost figure trembled under his roar. Crack! The state of possession by the martial spirit was instantly released, and the illusory figure suddenly solidified and fell from midair. The ghost fell to the ground, half kneeling. He was confused. Seeing Ghost Douluo appear and fall to the ground, Cheng Xiao was also stunned. What's the situation? The ghost looked up in shock and met Cheng Xiao's eyes. A pale cheek was exposed from under the black robe and appeared in front of Cheng Xiao. Various complex emotions such as shock and confusion were intertwined on the pale cheek. Big eyes stare at small eyes. The moment the two of them looked at each other, their minds suddenly went blank for a moment. This scene is really unexpected. Titled Douluo, kneeling in front of a great soul master. The two of them were not very smart and could not understand the situation at this time. But after only being stunned for a moment, the ghost reacted immediately and roared, Boy, what have you done? The ghost's pale face was full of ferocity, and the martial spirit was released again. A total of 9 spirit rings of yellow, purple, and black appeared at his feet. The moment the martial spirit possessed him, his figure began to become illusory again. As the ghost roared, Cheng Xiao woke up and retreated violently. At the same time, he started to wake up the corpses on the ground for the second time. No matter how strong they were all piled forward. If they could hinder him for a moment, it meant that he had a higher chance of survival. On a trace. Stand up. Roaring again, this time there were a lot fewer people standing up than before, including several soul lords and 2 or 3 soul sects. However, just as the second, stand up, sounded, the ghost once again inexplicably released the possession of the martial spirit. There was a snap. Kneel again, old ghost. What are you doing? Above the sky, Yu Guan noticed the abnormal situation of the ghost below and roared angrily. What does it sound like for a dignified and titled Douluo to kneel in front of a child? Are you playing? But the ghost had no time to respond to him. The 2 of them finally realized something was wrong. It seemed like it was no coincidence. Ghost Douluo stood up angrily, his soul ring appeared, and he was possessed by a martial spirit. Stand up. The ghost kneels again. Shock, disbelief, fear. This is a ghostly expression. Shock, disbelief, ecstasy. This is Cheng Xiao's expression. Come on everyone. Whether it was a shadow soul beast or a shadow soul master, they were all piled up by Cheng Xiao. Cheng Xiao himself turned around and ran away, his face full of excitement. When Gui Mei knelt down for the second time, Cheng Xiao finally remembered Gui Mei's special physical state. The third time confirmed his suspicion. The ghost's martial spirit is extremely strange. He died once when he was young, but by chance, the soul was able to repossess and merge with the martial spirit. As a result, the martial spirit awakened, and a very special martial soul situation appeared, that is, a ghost. In a sense, his soul is his martial soul, but he himself is a living dead. This state is no different from the undead corpses summoned by the necromancer. Therefore, what ghosts fear most is the kind of sacred light released by the seraph's martial spirit. This kind of light is the nemesis of his martial spirit. But, is this the only weakness of ghosts? The Shadow King can also command the undead. The Shadow King's command, stand up, is a forced order to the undead. The ghost's martial spirit is some kind of strange combination of soul and martial spirit, and he himself is a living dead. As an undead soul, his martial soul will naturally be affected by this forced order. But the martial soul cannot completely refuse the summons like the remnant soul of the dead. The part as a ghost forces it to respond, and the part as a martial spirit restricts it from responding. Let Wahan respond. Dream, why don't you ask Poison Douluo's Jade Phosphorus Snake King to respond? Do you think it will respond? Not all mutated martial spirits are like Luo Sanpao, able to eat, drink, sleep, fart, and even have independent consciousness. This special combination of ghostly martial arts will struggle extremely the moment Cheng Xiao calls. Severe contradictions and conflicts will cause the ghost to completely lose control of the martial spirit, thereby releasing the state of possession by the martial spirit. This thing is martial soul restraint. Tiank. Thinking of this, Cheng Xiao was ecstatic while running for his life. But he didn't stop. He wasn't stupid. There were always times when his mouth would be dry, his tongue would be knotted, and he would give Ghost Douluo an opportunity to take advantage of him. Titled Douluo is rich in experience, so Ghost Douluo seizes this momentary opportunity, and his death day is coming. Are you hoping to kill the ghost when he loses control of his martial soul? Cheng Xiao was not so naive. He broke through to a titled Douluo, and his life, physique, and spirit were greatly improved. A great soul master could kill a titled Douluo with a sneak attack. That title was too worthless. Not everyone has a magical dung fork in their hand, and one poke can kill them and ban them. Cheng Xiao could think of the fate of those shadows without even looking back. All the shadows rushed upward, stacked layer by layer, almost burying the ghosts at the bottom. Get away. However, the ghostly soul power suddenly exploded, the martial soul was summoned by him again, and a cold air wave spread out instantly. Bang bang bang. The shadows were instantly shattered into pieces, and the surrounding trees were broken by the violent air wave. The ghost was full of anger. He stared at the figure running into the forest, but there was a sense of fear in his heart. There's something wrong with this guy. Nothing is right anywhere. The shadows he summoned were very similar to his own aura. That order had an absolute restraint effect on him. When those 3 ordinary words came out of the kid's mouth, he could feel as if the martial spirit was about to leave his body. The situation was just like the suffocation when he almost died when he was young. Gui Mei only felt as if his steps were filled with lead and stone, making it difficult to move forward. There seemed to be a fearful voice in his heart, telling him not to chase. Breathing rapidly, a large drop of sweat slipped down the ghost's pale cheek. Old ghost, what are you doing standing still? That kid is running away. Hurry up and chase him. Douluo didn't notice anything unusual about the ghost and shouted in the air. The ghost's cheek twitched twice, but then he turned his head and rushed towards the sky. Substitute. Go chase. After all, the ghost still didn't dare to face the voice that frightened him. He was scared. No one understands death better than Ghost Douluo. No one fears death more than he does. Only those who have experienced life and death will know the feeling of suffocation during death. The ghost rushed into the sky. Douluo's complexion changed drastically. He used his 8th soul skill, and time froze. But before the wave of waves hit Guiying, Douluo retreated and turned around, and the two of them connected instantly. Bipolar static realm. The entire space was frozen at this moment, and even Douluo's soul skill fluctuations were not spared. In just a moment, the static realm was lifted, but at the moment of lifting, Ghost Douluo and Douluo had switched places. The two borrowed each other's strength and suddenly separated, avoiding Douluo's time freeze. Although both sides have space solidification skills, one is a domain and the other is just a soul skill. Naturally, the domain is more powerful. It can not only solidify everything, but even soul skills can be stagnant. But it is not without its shortcomings, that is, when controlling the other party, it cannot move itself. Therefore, if you are fighting against a powerful person like titled Douluo, you must have another helper to kill them when they control them. Now that there are no helpers, this field is a bit useless. However, fortunately, they can make subtle adjustments when lifting the field and seize some fleeting opportunities, such as this time to avoid soul skills. Time freezing did not work, and Douluo looked very ugly. He was wary of the two of them joining forces. Although he didn't want to admit it, the fact was before him that he was indeed not as good as Zhuhuaguan. If the two of them joined forces, he would probably be defeated soon. Go after him. That kid is very weird and I can't handle him. The ghost's voice was erratic. Be careful. Yu Guanjun had many questions about the abnormality of the ghost just now, but now was not a good time, so he did not say anything to him, turned around and chased Cheng Xiao who ran into the forest. Zhuhuaguan, what are you doing? Stop. Douluo was shocked and angry. Aha! The ghost blocked his way and said coldly, I will be your opponent. Although he is not like Yu Guan, who can restrain poison to a certain extent, he is still a level 94 titled Douluo, while Douluo is only level 91. It may be difficult to kill Douluo as soon as possible, but holding on still no big problem. Douluo's figure flickered in the forest, and within a few breaths, Cheng Xiao's figure was already visible. Boy, stop, Yu Guan yelled, her voice like a woman's. The sound of breaking wind behind him was solid and solid, far from the cold and erratic feeling of ghosts. Hearing the loud shout, how could Cheng Xiao not know that someone had changed? The back of his neck felt cold, and Cheng Xiao's heart skipped a beat. He activated the 9 rings again, the dragon roared in the forest, and the light mask covered Cheng Xiao. Yu Guan was also shaken away by the sudden light curtain. Soul Guide. After a moment of surprise, Cheng Xiao ran a short distance away again. Seeing this, Yu Guan sneered, and with a wave of his hand, a burst of soul power was blasted out. The huge force shook the thick light curtain to the point of collapse, but it was still able to resist it in the end. So strong. Yu Guan was quite surprised. He didn't know the protective capabilities of the mask, so he held back a little, for fear of beating Cheng Xiao to death and preventing him from returning to the Pope. But even so, this is also an attack from a titled Douluo. It is not that easy to resist it. This light curtain can resist attacks, so it is obviously not an ordinary thing. Now that he was testing the hardness of the light curtain, Yu Guan no longer held back and directly used his soul skills. The black soul ring lit up, and the petals of the strange velvet-toothed chrysanthemum withered one by one, flying away like a blade. Bang bang bang. The velvety petals bombarded the light curtain. This time, there was no miracle like before. The light curtain suddenly shattered under this huge force. Cheng Xiao's expression changed drastically, and the power poured out when the light curtain shattered pushed him flying out. Boy, let me see what tricks you have this time. Yu Guan sneered and chased after Cheng Xiao's flying figure. However, at this moment, 3 figures broke into the shadow realm and were rushing here quickly. One of them had an extremely strong light, causing the shadows under its feet to appear extremely weak. Cheng Xiao's eyes lit up. Seeing Yu Guan getting closer and closer to him, he suddenly shouted loudly, "Chien Runway. If you don't take action, it will be too late." Hearing this violent shout, Yu Guan's eyes narrowed, and when he raised his head, he saw a girl bathed in golden light flying towards him at a terrifying speed. The girl has 6 pairs of golden wings on her back, and with her long golden hair, she shines like a blazing sun in the dark night. "Yugan, how dare you touch my people?" Anger appeared on Chien Runway's holy cheeks. Yu Guan's face changed drastically, and he rushed towards Cheng Xiao, wanting to control Cheng Xiao first. However, 2 figures came out from both sides, and collided with Yu Guan, blocking his body. Down. On the other side, Chien Runway caught Cheng Xiao who was flying out. The 2 of them touched their hands, and a strange feeling appeared in their hearts. No. Chien Runway realized Cheng Xiao's intention, her pupils shrank, and she exclaimed. "Help me chop him, and I'll pay it back to you next time." Cheng Xiao was so driven that he could no longer hold back the anger in his heart. When Chien Runway rushed towards him, he was also filled with anger. At the moment when the 2 came into contact, they were affected by this anger. At this moment, their minds reached a certain resonance with great tacit understanding, and their souls merged. Cheng Xiao did not wait for Chien Runway to respond, and directly put his arms around Chien Runway's waist. Cheng Xiao's hot breath hit Chien Runway's ears, and Chien Runway was shocked, numbing her from the tail vertebra to the back of her neck. Buzz. In an instant, Cheng Xiao felt that his soul power had been drained out of him. The same was true for Chien Runway. Her body softened and she pressed tightly against Cheng Xiao. The golden light covered the 2 of them, and they seemed to have stripped off their clothes, facing each other calmly. The next moment, the 2 of them entered an extremely mysterious state. A huge figure wearing shadow armor appeared in the sky, holding a black giant sword, and his cloak danced in the wind, which was very powerful. The helmet covered his face, and only a pair of emotionless black eyes stared coldly at Yugan. It is the Shadow King. However, this appearance that should make people feel frightened actually gives people a strange sense of holiness, and the light turns into several halos behind it, like a god. The Shadow King raised the black giant sword, and instantly, a rich dark color condensed on the blade. Cut. The giant sword suddenly swung down, and the extremely rich black luster suddenly burst out, slashing straight down, heading straight to Yugan. I struggled for a long time as to whether to use the image of the Shadow King or to merge it with the image of the Angel God. After thinking about Huo Yuhao's martial soul fusion skill, it seemed that it was not a fusion of the 2, but appeared in the image of one, and finally chose the Shadow King. Adding a light wheel owned by God can give the Angel God a little face. Otherwise, Chien Runway would have no sense of existence and would only provide soul power as a milk bottle. Yugan is competing against 2 titles. His level is higher than the 2, but the strength displayed by the 2 of them joining forces is enough for him to be prepared. Otherwise, he may be seriously injured by the 2 if he is careless. This is a misunderstanding. His Majesty the Pope just wants to see him, not. Yugan didn't want to conflict with the other party. After all, although they supported different objects, they were still members of Wahan Palace. There's no need to get into a big fight here. However, before he finished speaking, he suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He looked up suddenly and saw a huge figure waving a giant sword in his hand. Cut. The black sword light struck down, and with an indomitable momentum, he went straight to Yugan. In an instant, Yuzan felt a chill in her head. The sword light arrived in the blink of an eye, and without even waiting for the 3 people facing each other to react, they passed between Snakespear Douluo and Array Douluo and arrived in front of Yu Guan. It slashed hard on his chest, leaving him no time to even use soul skills to resist. Boom! Snake Spear Douluo and Array Douluo felt that the strength of the competition in their hands was suddenly gone. The next moment, Yu Guan disappeared in front of their eyes and was directly chopped away by the sword light. Bang bang bang! Yu Guan flew upside down and hit a thick tree trunk, but it broke the trunk without being stopped. After several trees collapsed suddenly, Yu Guan's figure was able to stop. Swish! The Shadow King dispersed, and the figures of Cheng Xiao and Chien Runway reappeared. Cheng Xiao's face was pale, his lips were bloodless, and his expression looked extremely tired. Compared to him, Chien Runway's situation was much better. Although her soul power was terribly consumed, her complexion was not that ugly, and there was a lot of blood. However, with her cheeks glowing, Chien Runway's eyes flashed with a hint of shame. The feeling of martial soul fusion skills made her feel very uncomfortable, giving her the feeling of being stripped naked and exposing her innermost secrets to the public. This was extremely difficult for Chien Runway, who was used to hiding herself, to accept it. She let go of Cheng Xiao with a cold face, trying to keep her distance. As soon as he let go, Cheng Xiao's feet became weak and he was about to fall. Chien Runway panicked and quickly hugged his waist. Unexpectedly, Cheng Xiao leaned softly on her body. Chien Runway looked stiff. "Thank you," Cheng Xiao said. Chien Runway pushed him away deliberately. After hearing the voice, she saw that he looked weak and felt pity. She pursed her lips and didn't reply with a cold face, but she didn't push him away either. In the distance, the gray smoke dissipated, and Yugon revealed a slightly embarrassed figure. His long hair was no longer as delicate as before, and was slightly messy. His clothes were torn away, and a sword mark appeared on his chest. His expression was quite solemn, and he covered his painful chest. He felt an indelible burning sensation from the sword mark, which was constantly eroding his body. Hiss! Yu Guan's eyelids twitched. This aura, if his martial spirit hadn't been made up of the celestial grass, strange velvet, and sky-green chrysanthemum, it would have been extremely difficult to resist this kind of erosion. If the old ghost was beheaded, he would definitely not be as relaxed as he was. He would most likely be tortured to death by this sword. Seeing this, Snake Spear Douluo and Guillotine Douluo also had a flash of surprise in their eyes. Is this an attack that the young master can perform? Forced to retire a titled Douluo. Do they still need to protect this? Surprised and astonished expressions appeared. Snake Spear Douluo and Arkham Douluo quickly looked back, only to see the young master leaning on the young man ambiguously. Quote exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark quote. Their scalps were numb, and they quickly turned around, wishing they could blind themselves, just pretending they didn't see this scene. He didn't notice the movements of Shilong and Shui Shui. When Yu Guan's embarrassed appearance came into view, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but split his dry lips and laughed. He was being chased in quite an embarrassing situation just now, and he was also quite annoyed. Now the situation between the two was reversed. The dignified titled Douluo was forced into this state by him, which made Cheng Xiaoyi feel relieved and relieved. He didn't expect Yu Guan to be seriously injured by him. The martial soul fusion skill was not like Tang San's, Guanyin Tears, so it wasn't so terrifying. He was only a great soul master, and Chien Runway was only over level 60. It was enough for them to achieve this effect if their soul power was exhausted. If this sword can seriously injure him, then when he reaches level 60 and uses the martial soul fusion skill, wouldn't he be able to injure Chien Douluo? Leave it to you, I can't hold it anymore. Cheng Xiao was a little sluggish and couldn't hold it anymore. After giving an explanation, he leaned on Chien Runway's shoulder and fell asleep. Chien Runway bit her silver teeth lightly. If the situation was not right now, she would really want to throw this kid down. It's just too much. Tell that woman that she is mine. Tell her not to make any plans in the future, otherwise don't blame me for being rude. Chien Runway said coldly to Yu Guan, then turned and left. Walk. Snake Spear Douluo and Elephant Douluo were wary of Yugon for a long time. After Chien Runway walked away, they slowly retreated. Yu Guan looked at the leaving figures of several people and was silent for a while without stopping them. With his position, he naturally knew Chien Runway's identity. Although his position was on the side of the Pope, he did not dare to take action against Chien Runway rashly, otherwise he would not be able to bear the anger from the enshrinement hall. It looks like we have to swallow this loss. Thinking of the extremely terrifying power of the great enshrinement, Yu Guan's eyes flashed with fear. Well, the pain in his chest made him groan. Looking at the sword mark on his chest, there was a trace of surprise in Yu Guan's eyes. That martial soul fusion skill is a bit too powerful. I have to inform the Pope about this. Cheng Xiao woke up, and a familiar layout broke into his sight. He stood up and found Yi Lingling at the table not far away, with her chin on her hand and nodding her head naively. Ling Ling. Ah, Yi Langling woke up and was surprised when she saw Cheng Xiao getting up. Are you awake? How long have I been unconscious? Cheng Xiao looked at her cute appearance that was still sleepy, felt funny, touched her head, and asked. Yi Lingling quickly opened his hand, wrinkled her nose, and sat on the edge of the bed. Just one night. One night. Cheng Xiao was a little surprised, but then he figured it out. This is just the exhaustion caused by the draining of soul power after using martial soul fusion skills, and there is no damage to the body itself. Therefore, it is natural that he does not need to be unconscious for a long time like last time. How did I get back yesterday? Grandpa Dugu sent you back. Yi Lingling said. Grandpa Dugu came back yesterday and said that he taught you a lesson and exhausted your soul power. Let Grandpa treat you to see if there is any problem. Cheng Xiao nodded, thoughtfully. Did Chien Runway have communication with Dugu Bo? Or just put yourself on the path that Dugu Bo must pass when he comes back? Etc. Chien Runway. Ren Shui. Oops. Cheng Xiao's pupils shrank, and he suddenly thought that he was too anxious when being chased by Yu Guan, and in his desperation, the name he shouted was Chien Runway. My mind was in a mess, and I was struggling for a long time whether it would be better for Yu Guan to get hurt a little or not get hurt at all. Afraid of being destroyed by the fighting force. Finally, I made reference to Duwilan Contra to stop the Golden Road and Netherworld White Tiger. I feel that it is more appropriate to not get hurt and suffer a boring loss. What did you say? Bib Dong put down the pen in her hand, a look of astonishment appearing on her delicate cheeks. You said she and that child have martial soul fusion skills. Ju Douluo said respectfully. Yes, although that child is only in the realm of a great soul master, he does have a martial soul fusion skill with her. Moreover, that martial soul fusion skill has nothing to do with angels, but the sword light he slashes as it has an effect very similar to the fire of light. Bib Dongdai frowned slightly. Chien Runway's martial spirit was a seraph, a divinely gifted martial spirit. According to common sense, no one can use any martial soul fusion skills with him, unless the opponent's martial soul has reached the same level. Could it be that child's martial spirit was so powerful? Ghost Douluo also bowed at this time and said, Your Majesty, that child's methods are a bit abnormal. Tell me. At that time, Ghost Douluo narrated Cheng Xiao's manipulation of the undead shadows and concluded, the aura of those shadows is quite similar to my aura, just like the rebirth of the undead. After hesitating for a moment, Ghost Douluo said his reaction at that time, moreover, he seems to be able to control my martial spirit, making me lose control of it in an instant. After Bib Dong heard this, her brows furrowed deeper and deeper. Just listening to this description made her feel like some fallen soul master who specializes in digging people's graves and uses evil methods. But being able to control Ghost Douluo's martial spirit, this is a bit unbelievable. I have never heard of such a strange thing happening. More importantly, if that child was really like this, how could Chien Runway have martial soul fusion skills with him? Seraphim are the brightest and purest martial spirits in the world. All evil and filthy things cannot withstand the light power of Seraphim. Not to mention martial soul fusion skills, if you are even slightly contaminated, you will feel heartbreaking pain. After pondering for a long time, Bib Dong still couldn't figure out the doubts in her heart. Relying on her instinct, she was still more inclined to believe Chien Runway. The martial soul cannot be faked, and it can perform martial soul fusion skills. It is unlikely that he is a fallen soul master, but the method may make people feel uncomfortable. What's more, in her impression, Chien Runway was perfect in all aspects. She had been lurking for so many years and she had never been confused. It was unlikely that she would be deceived by a child. I understand. Let's put this aside for now. Is there anything else? After recalling for a while, Douluo remembered another thing and told Bib Dong about the rumor that Cheng Xiao was the holy son of Wahan Palace. After hearing this, Bib Dong felt a little ridiculous at first, and then found it very funny. She didn't expect to make such a mistake. He waved his hand, not wanting to pay attention to such rumors. Bib Dong suddenly thought of what Chien Runway had left for her. He's mine. Somehow, Bib Dong was in a daze, and a stubborn and delicate face appeared in her mind. Many years ago, although the little girl was young, she could vaguely see her own shadow in her body. She stood in the distance and stared at him angrily. This is my thing. You are not allowed to touch it. The little girl was not afraid of herself and stared into her innocent eyes, which contained hatred and grievance. With mixed feelings in her heart, Bib Dong couldn't help but slowly raise the corners of her mouth. It was a bit like when she was a child, and she still hadn't changed much after so many years. Since there are such rumors, then let him be a true holy son. Bib Dong regained his sharp gaze. Douluo and Ghost Douluo were stunned at the same time, very puzzled by the Pope's order. What is this for? If you don't clarify it quickly, are you really going to let that kid take the title of Holy Son? Publish the news and order the Wahan halls in all cities. Cheng Xiao will be the holy son of the Wahan hall, and Juliana will be the holy girl of the Wahan hall. Bib Dong's eyes flickered. When Juliana comes back from her training, she will go to Tiando City to introduce the holy son to the holy son. Take him back and welcome him openly and openly. Wahan Palace welcomes back its holy son, who dares to talk too much. At that time, there will be many excuses, saying that the son and the saint need to decide on the next pope. Don't let me move. Oh, I want to see what you can do if I take away your things. Cheng Xiao, who was far away in Tiando City, still didn't know that he would transform from a false holy son to a true holy son. I don't even know that the reason for this is just the rivalry between Chien Runway and Bib Dong's mother and daughter. Even if he knew it, he had no intention of paying attention to it. At this time, he was almost too busy to even touch the ground. Countless people came to visit, almost crossing the threshold of the Yi family. Not only the Wahan Palace family is interested in absorbing soul rings beyond the limit, but the upper 3 sects, the lower 4 sects, and various soul master academies are also interested in this. No one wants to have a higher-end soul ring. According to Cheng Xiao's theory, the first 4 links are the best to exceed the limit, and the further back, the more difficult it becomes. For the sake of the younger generations of the family, some families have already begun to come to establish relationships and inquire about more detailed techniques. It's not that no one has evil intentions, but some forces are daunted by Poison Douluo's reputation and give up this unrealistic idea. As for the big forces, they don't want to stain their own power's reputation because of such a small thing. After all, Yi Renxin and Cheng Xiao are also attracting a lot of attention now. Countless people's eyes are on them. It is too difficult to abduct them without anyone noticing. Fame is also a talisman to some extent. After seeing off the vice president of Lanba College, Cheng Xiao looked exhausted. Before he could rest for a while, there was another knock on the door. Cheng Xiao was a little annoyed. If he had known it was so troublesome, he should have gone to Dugu Bo's Beppu to practice. As soon as he opened the door, Cheng Xiao was startled by the people outside. Your Highness the Crown Prince. Cheng Xiao's eyes flickered. After that day, Chien Runway never appeared again or made any move. Cheng Xiao even thought that he had remembered it wrong. But he trusted his memory more. As for why Chien Runway didn't come to see him again, he couldn't think of a reason and could only put it aside. Seeing Shui Qinghe again at this time, Shui Qinghe's face was still as fresh as spring breeze. Cheng Xiao looked at his face for a long time, but couldn't detect anything. What? You're not going to invite us in? Shui Qinghe teased. His Royal Highness is here, how dare you turn away the door? Please come in. Cheng Xiao stepped aside and made a gesture of invitation. But Shui Qinghe stepped aside and introduced the people behind him to Cheng Xiao. This is my teacher, Ning Fengji, the master of the 7 treasures glazed sect. This is Sword Douluo, Chen Xin. This is the one you have met, my junior sister, Ning Rongrong. After Shui Qinghe finished the introduction, a look on his face, a hint of apology. Sorry, I took the liberty of visiting today, I hope you don't mind. Cheng Xiao's face was slightly surprised, but he was not surprised. 2 of the lower 4 sects had already come, and it was the turn of the upper 3 sects. He still didn't believe that the upper 3 sects were so calm. No, the first one is finally here. I've met sect leader Ning. Chen Shin is crowned. Ning Fengji looks to be in his 30s or 40s, with soft eyes, a face like a crown jewel, quite handsome, and a refined and gentle temperament. He is wearing a pure white robe, spotless. Behind him, Sword Douluo was also wearing a snow-white robe, with white beard and hair, and a simple appearance. The skin on his face was as delicate as a baby, and his expression was very indifferent. Cheng Xiao just glanced at him and felt a sharp aura running through his heart, making people dare not look directly at him. As this little friend Cheng Xiao, I admire Senior Yi and your theory very much, so I would like to discuss it with you. I hope you will forgive me for visiting this time. Ning Fengji said with a smile. There is a certain magnanimity in his words. Compared with him, Shui Qinghei's gentle and elegant temperament was inferior and a bit artificial. Cheng Xiao commented secretly. Naturally, the Qibao glazed sect could not block the door. Cheng Xiao stepped aside and raised his hand to invite everyone into the room. Everyone, please. Then I'm sorry for bothering you. Ning Fengji showed a hint of apology and stepped into the door. Several people fell behind him and filed in. After introducing a few people into the courtyard, Cheng Xiao was the last to close the door. Just as he was about to step forward and let a few people into the house, the pretty girl suddenly stopped Cheng Xiao. Hey, you just met my dad and Grandpa Jian, why haven't you met me? Can't you see me? Ning Rongrong put her hands behind her back, took a step to block Cheng Xiao, then turned around, question. Cheng Xiao was surprised, but he did not expect that Ning Rongrong would come out like this. He saluted Ning Fengji and Sword Douluo, which was just a little respect from a junior to an elder, but Ning Rongrong could only be regarded as an equal at best. If you salute her, wouldn't it mean that you are a generation younger? But when I think back to the first 2 encounters, I am no longer surprised. The first time in the hotel, she had seen Ning Rongrong's unruliness. The second time outside Tiando City, she had learned about Ning Rongrong's domineering nature. Now Ning Rongrong made Cheng Xiao feel that she was a little unruly. Glancing at Sword Douluo who stopped, Cheng Xiao could only say that he was awesome. Being pampered by 2-titled Douluo, he indeed had the confidence to have princess disease. Coupled with the wealth and power of the Qibao glazed sect, this disease can probably be cured. In comparison, Shui Ke couldn't even imagine having such confidence. Rongrong, don't mess around. Ning Fengji scolded, interrupting her daughter's rude behavior. That's all on weekdays. Uncle Jian and Uncle Jiu protect her, and he can't do anything about it even if he wants to. But there is a place for nonsense. Today is just for her. If you offend the other party, it will be difficult to talk about it later. Ning Rongrong was scolded and curled her lips. Knowing that Ning Fengji's rebuke was for her own sake, with Sword Douluo and Ning Fengji present, it was naturally impossible for Cheng Xiao to spit her in front of them, so he smiled and cleverly used words to resolve it. Embarrassed. Haven't you and I met each other before? Your Highness the Crown Prince introduced us, right? Your Highness the Crown Prince. Ning Fengji was a little surprised. Have you met before? Being called out by Cheng Xiao, Shui Qinghei couldn't just stand idly by and took over the conversation. Teacher, Rongrong sneaked into Tiando City before. When I found her, I happened to meet Cheng Xiao, so I introduced them to each other. Ning Fengji was stunned, and immediately smiled and said, you are the same age. Since you have known each other for a long time, you can get closer and closer in the future. Ning Rongrong's eyes widened. What? She was obviously not familiar with him at all. She had only met him once. Who wanted to get close to him? Cheng Xiao couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, saying to himself, no need, I don't have time to help you discipline your daughter. This little witch has the backing of 2-titled Douluo, who dares to touch her. Close, it's just enough to let her huff and drink. Ning Rongrong, who had not tempered her temper at Shrek, was really hard to get close to. Ha, 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 easy to say, easy to say. Cheng Xiao laughed twice, said ha, then immediately ignored the topic and quickly invited a few people into the room. Everyone, this way. Ning Fengji felt helpless when he saw this. How could he not see Cheng Xiao's rejection? I can only blame my daughter for being too willful. Feeling Ning Fengji's reproachful look, Ning Rongrong hid behind sword Douluo, avoiding Ning Fengji's gaze. This move gave Ning Fengji a headache. Shaking his head, Ning Fengji followed Cheng Xiao into the house. Ning Rongrong poked his head out from behind sword Douluo, wrinkled his nose at Cheng Xiao's back, stuck out his tongue and made a face. Sword Douluo didn't take it seriously and touched Ning Rongrong's head, hiding a smile in the corner of his eyes. Grandpa Yi, look who's coming. Sect Master Ning Jr. has met Mr. Yi. After a few people greeted each other, they sat down at Cheng Xiao's greeting. Afterwards, a few people started chatting, all of which were reminiscent of past experiences. Cheng Xiao was indifferent to this and sat silently. Suddenly, he discovered that Shui Qinghe had put on gloves. Recalling that when she had just poured him tea, Shui Qinghe deliberately kept a distance from Cheng Xiao, as if she was afraid of accidentally bumping into him. Cheng Xiao felt slightly amused. He thought he was afraid that the martial soul would interact with him again and guess his true identity. After chatting for a long time, they finally got down to business. This junior is here because I still have some questions about senior's theory. I hope senior can help me clarify my doubts, Ning Fengji said. This is going to be difficult for you. Yi Renxin smiled and shook his head. Ning Fengji's heart sank. Could it be that he didn't want to reveal it? This is a bit troublesome. However, what Ning Fengji didn't expect was that Yi Renxin paused, pointed to Cheng Xiao sitting in the corner, and said, "This little guy is the real author of this theory, and I only have a partial understanding of it. If you want to understand, I'm afraid I have to ask him." A trace of surprise flashed in Ning Fengji's eyes. As soon as he turned, his eyes fell on Cheng Xiao. He quickly understood the key. I am afraid that he was afraid that the child's theory would be buried, so Yi Renxin stepped in to help him. Immediately, his heart sank, and he didn't know if he had neglected the other party just now. If Rongrong had offended the other party by making things difficult for him just now, he might have returned empty-handed this time. It's true that I made a mistake. I hope you won't mind, little friend Cheng. Ning Fengji quickly adjusted his attitude and apologized. Sect Master Ning was joking. It's nothing important. Don't take it to heart. Cheng Xiao waved his hand, not paying much attention. I wonder what Sect Master Ning has to say. Don't take advice seriously. I just have a little doubt and I still need your guidance. Ning Fengji said, you stated in your theory that there are some martial spirits that cannot break through the title Douluo in their lifetime. This is due to the quality of the martial spirits. And our sect's 7 treasures glazed pagoda has never been able to break through the 80-level bottleneck, which is quite consistent with this theory. According to the theory, the quality of martial arts can be improved. I came here this time to ask, is it possible for Zong's 7 treasures glazed pagoda to evolve? Certainly. Ning Fengji's eyes lit up and he asked, I don't know what can be done. I hope little friend Cheng can give me some advice. The Qibao glazed sect will definitely be grateful. Cheng Xiao smiled and said nothing. Of course he knew how to evolve the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, but he hadn't gotten the benefits yet. How could he tell it so easily? Cheng Xiao is not stupid. If he told the other party, and the other party gave him a large gold soul coin, it would be over. Wouldn't he be at a loss to his grandma's house? Since Sect Master Ning has read the theory, he must be clear about it. I have explained the specific method in the theory. Cheng Xiao smiled. Ning Fengji obviously didn't believe this. In the theory, he naturally explained several methods that can make the martial soul evolve, but they were all general and general. If he really wanted to try it, he might be afraid that it takes a lot of time. The Qibao glazed sect is not short of money, and people who are not short of time naturally cherish their time. There is a shortcut available, so why waste time trying to figure it out on your own? Ning Fengji was about to make a promise, but Cheng Xiao changed his voice and said, I remember one of the methods is to choose a soul ring that matches the attributes and is as close as possible to the limit age, right? The 7 treasures glazed tile sect must have this ability when selecting suitable attributes. As for soul rings that are close to the limit or even beyond the limit, the 7 treasures glazed tile sect has a distraction control method, which should not be bad for mental training. You just need to strengthen your body more. The quality, coupled with a more suitable soul bone, may be possible to evolve the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda when the 7th level martial soul is incarnate. Ning Fengji frowned. Of course he knew this method, but this method was no longer applicable to him. The most important positions of his soul bones, the head soul bone and the torso bone, had already been occupied, and the soul ring could not be added. Therefore, he can only place his hopes on his daughter Ning Rongrong. But asking Ning Rongrong to train more is harder than reaching the sky. He wants her to practice more, but she only knows how to be lazy and slippery, and she has Uncle Sword and Uncle Gu to protect her. Even if he wants to be strict, he will be hindered. So we can only find another way, which is to take Tiansai to Bao. However, the Qibao glazed sect had no shortage of ordinary supplements, but it still failed to evolve its martial soul. The so-called treasures of heaven, materials and earth are so broad, what kind of things can match them? How can the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda be evolved in a targeted manner? You can't try them one by one, right? Suddenly, Ning Fengji's heart moved, and he noticed the method of distraction control mentioned in Cheng Xiao's words, and seemed to think of Shui Qinghei's impression of Cheng Xiao that he accidentally mentioned to him. There are so many profound meanings in words, not like a teenager. Immediately, he squinted his eyes. Could it be? If little friend Cheng is willing to point you to a clear path, everyone in our Qibao glazed sect will definitely treat little friend Cheng as a guest. Ning Fengji tentatively said, I know that little friend Cheng has concerns and is afraid that this news will spread. It will cause endless trouble after leaving. It's better than this. I, Ning Feng, pledge my reputation and life to never let it out. I will leave the method of controlling distraction to my friend for safekeeping. If this matter is accidentally leaked, I can make the method of controlling distraction public to the public. What do you think? Hearing this, Cheng Xiao couldn't help but give Ning Fengji a thumbs up. Awesome. He briefly mentioned the distraction control method, but Ning Fengji understood his intention in an instant. Not only that, but they also directly gave him the steps, knowing clearly that he wanted to distract from the control, but he proposed the interface of mutual trust, and even only said, keep it, instead of giving it away, making the matter seem less serious. Common Philistine. These remarks really impressed Cheng Xiao. Compared with Ning Fengji, Shui Qinghei's methods were clumsy and extremely naive. Isn't this bad? Cheng Xiao hesitated for a moment and said angrily, doesn't it seem like I'm doubting the character of the sect leader? I still trust the character of sect master Ning. Since Ning Fengji is willing, he will naturally cooperate. Hey, this is the basis for you and me to trust each other. Ning Fengji waved his hand, slightly tough, just listen to me on this matter. It's settled. This. Cheng Xiao said that he was outspoken and acted helplessly. Ning Rongrong on the side was stunned. When she saw Cheng Xiao's, it's not that I want it, but you forced me to accept it, look, she was so angry that her silver teeth almost broke. This person is so treacherous. In just a few words, he deceived my sect's secret method. Dad is really confused. He promised the distraction control method before he even said it. He stole the lot that he was interested in that day, and now he's here to trick me into using my family's secret method. What a bully. Ning Rongrong hid behind sword Douluo, glared at Cheng Xiao and bared his teeth, pretending to be intimidating, telling Cheng Xiao not to push further. But Cheng Xiao didn't even look at her, and didn't put her in his eyes at all, which made Ning Rongrong almost stomp her feet in anxiety. In that case, seeing Cheng Xiao's agreement, Ning Fengji took out a volume from the Soul Guide and placed it on the table. This is the method of distraction control. Please take a look. Hey, we agreed to just keep it, so how can we peek at it? Cheng Xiao waved his hand. What's more, I believe in Sect Master Ning. Cheng Xiao is still sure of this. How could the majestic leader of the 7 Treasures Glazed Sect come up with a fake book to fool people? That's a bit too cheap. Moreover, he didn't let the wind out in advance. Could it be that Ning Fengji specially prepared a fake one and planned to use it to deceive people at any time? Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. My little friend, you can watch it. Our Qibao Glazed Sect is not someone who values the broom. If you are interested, you can practice on your own. Ning Fengji laughed, looking like he didn't care much. Just listen to what you said. If you don't take it seriously, why did you say, if it leaks, you can make it public, just now? This is just a promise given to Cheng Xiao. I have given it to you for safekeeping. You can learn it, but you cannot spread it to others. After filling in the last omission, Cheng Xiao nodded, finally relented, and said, I do know that there is something that is very suitable for the 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda and can make the 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda evolve. What? Ning Fengji's breath stopped, and his eyes narrowed slightly, staring at Cheng Xiao closely. A kind of fairy grass called Kiluo tulip. After taking this fairy grass, you can absorb the essence of heaven and earth, the light of the sun and the moon. The Qibao glazed pagoda is a gem-like martial spirit. If you can get this fairy grass, there will be great it's possible to break the limit. Ning Fengji asked, I wonder where I can get this fairy grass. Cheng Xiao couldn't laugh or cry, and shook his head, this fairy grass is rare. If I could get it, I would have taken it myself. This is truly a rare thing created by heaven and earth. For anyone, even if it is not suitable, there will be benefits after taking it. Great benefit. Cheng Xiao didn't lie, he really didn't get it. Kiluo tulip was still lying in Bingwo Liangyi's eyes, and he still hadn't thought of a way to tell it apart. Naturally, it doesn't count as getting. When Ning Fengji heard this, his eyes dimmed. His emotions were so high and low that he couldn't tell that Cheng Xiao's answer was wrong. Sect Master Ning, there is no need to be discouraged. With the financial resources of the Qibao glazed sect, it is only a matter of time before he can find him. Cheng Xiao advised. Ning Fengji nodded, it was indeed true. He had been worried about this matter before, but he was helpless, like a headless fly. Now that I have a goal, it's not like my trip was in vain. Thank you. Suddenly, just when Ning Fengji was about to express his gratitude, the door was pushed open. I saw 2 girls opening the door happily, and a green-haired girl smiled and said loudly, Grandpa Yi, I'm here to see you. I even brought you a guest. Behind her, an old man with green hair walked in with several people. Several people left looking for a voice, and Ning Fengji's eyes suddenly condensed. Yu Yuanjun. Ning Fengji's expression changed a little, and he didn't expect to collide with the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. Although on the surface, the 3 sects share the same spirit, this is just talk. Secretly, there are many hidden competitions among the 3 sects. No one wants the other 2 sects to weigh on them. On some small matters, the 3 sects may agree on the same opinion, but when it comes to big things, they may be happy to see each other suffer. For example, the Haoshan sect's retreat from the world. Regardless of the cause of the incident that year, Wahan Palace was bullying Haoshan sect, but the other 2 families showed no reaction at all. If the 3 families had joined forces to put pressure on the Wahan Palace, even if they could not force the Wahan Palace to retreat, at least they would not have allowed the Haoshan sect to end up in seclusion. Whether the 3 families are in the same spirit or not can be seen from this. Now that the Haoshan sect has retired, only 2 of the upper 3 sects are left. The balance has been broken, and the relationship between the Qibao glazed sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect is no longer as close as before. Especially since the Qibao glazed sect has 2 titled Douluo, while the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect only has 1 titled Yu Yuanjun, the 2 families are naturally at odds with each other. Sect Master Ning, Yu Yuanjun was a little surprised. He also didn't expect that they came by such a coincidence. Long time no see, Master Jade. Ning Fengji stood up with a smile. Long time no see, sect leader Ning, ha ha ha. Comma. Together with Yi Renxin, the 3 parties exchanged some pleasantries before introducing their juniors to each other. Are these the twin stars of the Yu family? Ning Fengji turned his eyes and landed on the 2 young men behind Yu Yuanjun. The young man took a step forward, cupped his hands towards Ning Fengji and others, and bowed. Junior Yu Tianxin Hang, I have met sect leader Ning, Chen Xinmian, and Senior Yi. Okay, as expected, heroes come from young. Yi Renxin was still so kind. Ning Fengji also nodded in praise. Next, Ning Rongrong, Cheng Xiao, and Yi Lingling came forward to pay their respects. After everyone had met each other, they began to divide the groups into groups. There was a table for adults and a table for children. No surprise to Cheng Xiao, she was naturally assigned to the children's table. Yu Yuanjun didn't notice anything strange, and chatted with Yi Renxin all the time. When Ning Fengji saw this, he suppressed a smile at the corner of his mouth. He naturally knew the purpose of Yu Yuanjun's coming here. He saw that Yu Yuanjun had got the wrong person, but he had no intention of warning him. How can others succeed if they don't fall into the pit that they have fallen into? Kids' table. Chang Xiao. Yu Tianong looked at Chang Xiao with curiosity and suspicion in his eyes. Are you Chang Xiao? Did you really defeat Yan Zi? You haven't used your martial spirit yet? Yu Tianong asked. Chang Xiao didn't pay attention to them because he knew that Yi Renqin and the others would call him over after they finished reminiscing about the past, so he kept thinking about how to deal with Yu Yuanzheng later. Suddenly being asked by Yu Tianong, Chang Xiao was slightly startled, and immediately turned his attention to Du Guyan. If you lose, you lose. There's nothing you dare to admit. Du Guyan rolled her beautiful eyes, waved her fist at Chang Xiao, and threatened fiercely, in order to convince them, I don't even want to lose my face. I told them everything I lost. If you dare to go back on your word, don't blame me for being rude. Since the last time he showed the ability to avoid both ice and fire, Du Guyan has been trying to find ways to let Chang Xiao enter the Tiando Royal Academy, but this has been hindered by both parties. After Yi Lingling joined the Wangdu team, the team was already fully equipped, and no one was in favor of adding another person. Chang Xiao was even more unwilling to play any group competition with them and refused without hesitation. He didn't like the few soul bones that Wahan Palace took out, so why bother with them? Du Guyan hated this with itch. Finally, Chang Xiao was relieved when he got the chance. If Chang Xiao dares to go back on her word, she will have to annoy this guy to death every day. Chang Xiao couldn't laugh or cry when he saw this. Because of the token given by Chien Runway, in order to avoid causing unnecessary reverie of Du Gubo and Yi Renqin, he reluctantly agreed to consider it and fool them. Now that time has passed, the token has been returned long ago. Even if Du Gubo and Yi Renqin knew about it, they would not be able to see the token style, and what they could associate with it would be greatly limited, so there is nothing to worry about. However, in order to prevent Du Guyan from pestering him, Chang Xiao simply refused to take the issue. He looked at Yu Tianong and nodded gently, it's just a fluke. Yu Tianong looked at Du Guyan's charming and angry look, as if struck by lightning, he couldn't believe his eyes. Ever since he met Du Guyan, he had never seen Du Guyan show such a feminine attitude to anyone. In the academy, Du Guyan always behaved like a big sister, being domineering and aloof, and did not treat anyone well. Even he is no exception. As the default heir of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus family, there were girls who pursued Yu Tianong in the past, but he didn't have any big feelings and only thought about cultivation. But ever since he first entered school and met Du Guyan, who treated him unpretentiously, Yu Tianong had a different feeling because of his unusual aggressiveness. He once expressed his admiration for Du Guyan, but unfortunately, Du Guyan seemed very aloof and rejected him without hesitation. This further aroused Yu Tianong's competitive spirit, and he pursued him for a long time. Although he did not catch Du Guyan's attitude towards him changed a lot. Yu Tianong even felt that as long as he persisted, it would not be long before Du Guyan agreed to his pursuit. However, what he didn't expect was that half a year ago, Du Guyan suddenly asked teacher Chen Ming to make an exception and allow an unknown boy to join the Royal Do team. At that time, he was opposed by all the team members. For the sake of team harmony, Yu Tianong chose not to help each other and did not express his position. From then on, Du Guyan's attitude towards him returned to the past, and he was not polite to him, which made him feel depressed. Yu Tianong thought that after a while, Du Guyan would calm down, but he didn't expect it. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye, and Du Guyan's attitude towards him still showed no sign of improvement. He was still very strange, didn't he just express his position? This is not the first time this has happened. Is it necessary to be so angry? Now that he saw Du Guyan's appearance, he suddenly realized that it was like a huge stone was pressing down on his heart, making him unable to breathe. It turns out that he was caught first. For a moment, Yu Tianong felt sour and astringent, as if he had knocked over the 5-flavor bottle. He had obviously worked hard for so long, but he didn't even dare to raise his voice in front of Du Guyan. He showed all kinds of care and attentiveness to Du Guyan every day, and he was about to see the light of day. Just a little bit closer. Just a little bit different. Suddenly a person jumped out and got ahead of him. The eyes of the two were clear, and Yu Tianong could not guess what relationship they had. But Du Guyan's differential treatment made him feel a huge sense of gap. The difference is all due to comparison. In the past, When Du Guyan smiled at Yu Tianong could be happy all day long. Now that he sees Du Guyan's emotions and mentality becoming more vivid in front of others, what does it mean if Du Guyan smiles at him? Yu Tianong used to think that Du Guyan treated him differently from others. But unexpectedly, it is others who are different. She gives so much to others, but is so stingy even smiling at herself. Yu Tianong felt as if something had been taken away from him, and his heart was empty. It is now April, and the temperature at the turn of spring and summer is already a little warm, but Yu Tianong feels as if he is in the midst of the falling snow in winter, and his heart feels cold. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.